Right, this is going to be another episode of the Best Damn League show. And believe it or not, a bit like when we did have Freeze on the show, this actually wasn't intentional. I didn't then set it up to be a meme like, lol, just come back next week and then we'll see it. Like, that's not even true. It just so happened that actually, again, when the scheduling came along and I messaged a few people, Nightshare was available because of all you horrible Fnatic fans. No, that's a joke. Or is it? Or is it? Anyway, you know what? Actually, at the outset, let me just ask you that. I've realised we should sometimes do that, Peter, on these shows. My style really is I do just like arrange an interview with someone, like quietly talk a little bit, like, yeah, can you change the mic thing? And then I do just like, right, so back in 2012, you were like, and they just have to they have to be into it. But I realise you need to warn people, a bit of foreplay, as it were. So, Nightshare, I will just ask you that question, which is, what do you actually feel about like the end of your Fnatic period? Are you someone, for example, are you thinking you want to be a coach again? Are you just chilling at the moment? What's going on in that sense? Because I told you, there's actually one of the reasons we sort of connected. Because obviously I knew Freeze, not you that well. I even told you, I actually think they've written your narrative completely wrong, mate. Your narrative is like, they're basically doing like the Arteta in Arsenal narrative of like, he just bottled it. He should have won the league, but then he just failed at the end. And I'm like, but if you look at the roster he got given, that probably should have been like third or fourth. And he was second all the time and was like almost beating G2. I told you, to me, it's like, I don't know what more you were supposed to do, mate. Like, didn't everyone agree? Like, G2 was like all LEC across every position. So I want to know, where's your head at for the coaching thing? Where you at the moment, mate?
I'm just doing some individual and helping teams who are interested in helping.
Just behind the scenes?
Yeah, just behind the scenes. Right. And it's just mostly chilling, you know.
Okay.
Waiting for the next opportunity, you'll see.
Okay.
But I was actually, you know, I saw the last episode, and I was playing with a joke in my head that I will just go on my brother's PC and I will just make the interview from there, you know, so people would not know actually. Okay. But yeah, you just spoiled it, I guess.
It's all good. Here's the thing. As we might even talk about in this episode, there are also bigger factors than just who the coach was. There's things like what was their coaching staff. Like I noticed they didn't have some fly quest, whatever, you know, like that NRG one where they're like, we have like 10 coaches. They're like Nightshare and an assistant coach. That's about it. So I'll just say, in my sense, Peter, I think that Nightshare is basically like the end of the Dark Knight. He just had to be vilified and hated by the Fnatic fans and run out of town because they needed like, you know, a villain to have, but he can handle it. It's okay. It's like that soliloquy at the end of the film, mate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know how much we're going to go and end up talking about Fnatic today, but I will say, Nightshare, that you may be able to fool some people, but actually, I'll tell you a secret that. So the first time I actually met you was at the end of the Splice Vipers Origin BCN. Because I didn't actually know Freeze had a brother.
Oh, classic. There you go.
I came outside and I saw you and you were talking with, it was a female relative. Maybe it was your mother, maybe it was your like aunt or somebody. And you were really happy. And I never seen Freeze that happy before. Like genuinely, like smiling, grinning. And I was like, that's not right. Is that Freeze? Okay. And like, I the first thing I did was I went back and I asked the team, and then they told me, and I was like, okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I don't know why. Like from everything I've heard about you, from other people in the Czech scene, they always say that you're very. You're very knowledgeable about the game, but you know when to keep it light and when to go hard. Is that accurate as a coach?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know. I don't really enjoy talking about myself. You know, it's more of like whatever people say who work with me, and yeah, that is important. It's not important how, you know. I don't mind like. You know, it's for me. It's always important how people who work with you sees you, and everything else is just I don't really care.
Okay. I will say as well, Peter, you have to realise the circumstances and context too. That was when Freeze was just like fucking Sisyphean pushing the boulder up the hill every day, then it rolled back down again. He never could get back in LEC. Meanwhile, Nightshare was just chilling like, yeah, League's just sort of like a fun game. You dip in, you dip out. I'd like to see if we could have reversed that. And it was like you were at the after party after like one of those LEC finals and then Freeze was there. Maybe the dynamic would be the opposite. Maybe suddenly he'd look like, you know, when people become the president of America and when they leave, they look like they've aged like 25 years. Maybe it'd be like that. Maybe more weathered. Because now it's Freeze and someone just chilling like, yeah, it's actually kind of fun, just, you know, not having any pressure, just doing a bit here and there, helping out. Anyway, let's start the show. Nightshare, what is your good point for this one?
So my good point, actually, a lot of the points are on the same theme. theme, and we'll touch on it later, right? But it's something that's close to me as I was working as a coach and then kind of building roster and infrastructure. It's all tied to that. And my good point is actually I have to give it to Casey.
Okay.
Because if I look back at when Casey was joining in the league and I was actually making a tier list for fun, kind of, I put them in like 9th or 10th place. I think it was the last place. And I have never seen so many bookmarked on the tweets because of the French community, right? It went a bit wild, right?
Right.
And everyone back then, everyone was putting them like 4th,
Yeah.
3rd, 5th,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this team will be so good. And I just blatantly said, okay, I don't think it will work. Like for various reasons, we don't need to go into it. This show is not about that, right?
That's pretty gangster, I've got to say, by the way. I won't lie. I had them like top 3 as well. I had them very high up.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't see it, right? And then ever since then, apparently, silently, kind of in the background, it seems like we don't have the full picture, right? But from the outside, it seems like they were taking all the right steps into the right direction. And suddenly here they are, and they want to split, and they're actually like doing pretty fine on international.
Yeah.
They were doing pretty fine in like game wise, and from what I've heard from the people that work there, also like infrastructure wise, they're like doing really good job, right? So I think it's good point is that we have finally a team that was on the last like they finished like 9th, 10th, 9th, I don't know, I don't remember exactly, right? But they were doing pretty poorly, and ever since then they were just improving. And now you can see, finally the improvement. And it takes a lot of time in between you find the good pieces for the roster and also the people around them, right? So I think they did really, really insane job, and I have to give it to them. Like, we need more teams like them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think that when one thing that people don't think enough about when they see content creators do or coaches or anyone do tier lists is a tier list doesn't necessarily, it's not static, right? It's like a moment in time. And actually, if you are rating somebody very highly on your tier list, I think you have an obligation to be harsher on that person, right? Or if you rate somebody lower, you should recognize when they outperform your expectations and try to analyze why this is, right? Like, I could give an example of this. Like, Alvaro is somebody, for instance, who I rate like mega high, but as a result, I'm mega harsh on him when he fucks up because my expectations are higher, right? But I think this is something that fans tend not to do, right? Well, when fans tend to do a tier list, what they do is they do a tier list and then they'll look for justifications for why their tier list is right? And they'll try to engineer narrative in order to make them right, and it's right, being right is more important rather than actually analyzing why something is the way that it is. But I just say for KC that the way that KC have built their roster, I think there are only 3 teams in LEC that could build a roster like that, right? Which are Vitality, KC. I would have said BDS in the past, but actually, like, given what happened last off-season, I don't think BDS can build the roster in that way. And I would say Heretics are the other ones, right? Because they invest a lot of money in their academy roster, and that allows them to trial out the top talents, pay a lot of money in academy, and then make sure that they can develop them within their system, right? Whereas you look at a team like, does Fnatic doesn't have a tier 2 team, G2 doesn't have a tier 2 team. What are they doing, right? Like, when they're signing, it makes it really hard to sign rookies. And like the way that these orgs have typically done it is in the past, they just bully the other orgs, right? That have their academy. They just
play off their name, right? Like, we are Fnatic, we are G2, so come to us, you know?
Yeah, but this is, I think, KC are the first org that I've seen definitively that can like resist bullying from G2, right? And when I say bullying, I don't mean G2 are like going and being mean to them on social media. I mean like it's G2 going to their players and I'm not going to say poach, right? But, you go and say, if you just, at the end of the season, maybe we have a support role available, Paris, or like Labvov, but we're not saying anything, just we may want to consider, you may want to like think about delaying signing a contract, scheme on, things like this, right? Like, it's not poaching, it's just informing you, right? And I think that that KC definitely have built a structure that makes it very, very hard for other orgs to do that, right? And I think that that's why they've been able to. They can do it comfortably they can develop comfortably within the system. And obviously, you know, like I've gone on Twitter about this, so, you know, I think their GM's really, really great. I think Reha, who's their head coach, like, when you can tell somebody is smart about team building by the questions they ask you when they're asking you for a reference. And like Reha has never accepted he's never like wanted, given the choice, a written reference. Whenever he's asking me for a reference on a play, he asks, can we jump in a call? And like literally the shortest reference that I've ever given him is a 30-minute Discord call, which to me shows that he does his research, and the questions he asks are like, sometimes he even asks questions that I don't even think of. Okay. And like that tells me this guy knows his shit, right? So yeah.
In that case, we can be certain that no one asks lightly for a reference from Peter Dun. It's like, I've got half an hour free. Bloody hell. He's calling me. I hope he was just going to say that player was good.
Down on 1 hour plus.
Exactly.
That's the minimum.
Exactly. Just block out your calendar if you ask him. But no, by the way, that actually is serious, yeah. The amount of people where I've actually, put it this way, I won't say who, but I've heard of people who just did like a Twitter DM and it was one sentence, mate, and then they've gambled on a player, and it's like, why are you gambling your career on that? Like, do your due diligence, mate. Like, you know, I'm joking about it, but if you're actually going to sign the player, like, yeah, but actually listen to what people have to say. No, by the way, I actually think this is an underrated take. Obviously, now that they've won, people are going to think it's awesome. But I actually think if you look at their org, the whole time they've come to LEC, I actually think the only mistake they made in GMing was just running the entire roster back for spring, which actually, if you don't know about that, that's just the difference between me and Peter. Peter would say you should do that anyway, just to like give the players a chance, because obviously even the ones that had been in LEC before, it was years earlier and all that jazz. Like, but basically that's the only angle you can look at where they completely fucked up. The winter one isn't even as bad as people think. Like, here's the problem with how narratives work in hindsight. Well, obviously now everyone can look back and go, what were they doing putting Bo with Targamas? That doesn't even make sense. At the time, by the way, nobody said that. I'm telling you, go back, same concept. If you want to do power rankings and pre-season things, go ask the KC fans who's the biggest expert. By the way, it's almost certainly, here's the one thing they don't put out, by the way, KC fans. Remember, KC fans, you're all playing the French thing up, right? So you're telling me if I go back and I watch OTP, by the way, people I love, Zabatine, Law, etc. If I go and watch or if I go and watch Chips and Noi, you're telling me they would have said, hey, this lineup doesn't even make sense. Board Targamas are trash. It'd probably be like 9th or 10th. No, your own people didn't say that. Everyone, including me, except for Nightshare, who fucking saw through the Matrix, apparently, everyone else thought that team would be like, at least put it this way, like a good playoff team, if not actually like a sleeper, like Worlds team or something. You should actually be like contending there, because it actually looked quite shrewdly made, if you remember this detail. That was their first split in the LEC. You don't spend, this is one detail people keep getting wrong, right, which shows me people don't know economics. I'll give you an example from Counter-Strike. So in Counter-Strike, ESL got bought as part of the ESL Faceit group by the Saudis, the Savvy Gaming Group, for $1 billion, right? That was how much it was. And it went to the parent group, MTG, Modern Times Group, right? Peter, I'm not even trolling. To this day, people say things about ESL's current tournaments like, so this is what you get if you give them $1 billion. It's like, no, you got it wrong. Like, they didn't get the $1 billion. Their owners got the $1 billion. The $1 billion is gone. So if anything, you'd have even less to give them now, because you've spent $1 billion to get them, and now you got to. So you have to think of that logic, guys. Remember, KC bought that slot for the LEC at like one of the craziest valuation periods ever. I think it was like 30 million euros or something mental, guys. So like, if you spend that much on a team there, and by the way, they weren't having cheap teams in LFL, I can tell you. Like, I told people that Reckless was on like 300,000 euros in the LEC. LFL, by the way, if you don't know, guys, that was probably what Caps made in the LEC, or maybe even more if you go back to that year. So they were spending bonkers money on this project. So if you come to the LEC, you're not in your first split going to make an all-star team. It would even be lunacy to do it. So if you have a look at the squad they made, where they kept their veterans, Cabo and Sakan, who, by the way, were mega proven in the LFL, then they brought in Bo, who, again, fans can say whatever they want. I can tell you, everyone who's worked with him or was behind the scenes in the era he came to Europe says this guy was so cracked. That's why they've now all... Notice none of them have shifted their opinion to he can't play in LEC. They all now just say maybe he should just be ADC, as in he's so good, guys, mechanically, they think he could actually be a top ADC in the region. Like, everyone says he was a demon in scrims. Then you go look at the other pieces they had. Like, okay, yes, obviously the Targamas move at the time didn't work out. By the way, aren't you all loving Targamas? Isn't this even the perfect week for me to make this point? You're all loving what he's turned into, and how when you put him with different players, it's brought out what you could see possible about him, etc. So I think you look at those rosters, I think people are really unfair with how they act like everyone knew they were going to come 10th, even though at the same time they had the most rabid fan base ever that would have killed you if you'd have put them anything below about 3rd or 4th. So that part, I guess, I could only critique them for spring because they ran back the same roster without their coach. So to me, it was like, I don't really know what you're hoping from here. I still wouldn't have thought 10th, but like you'd think you'd trip over with a few more games, but okay, you still were bad. You then look after that. I still think, by the way, that summer recruitment, bearing in mind you're doing it for summer split, where, by the way, people charge a premium and you can only get whoever isn't available for other teams, basically, like no one wants them. That was a really shrewd roster, because that roster in summer is the genesis of this roster. That's when they got Canada, that's when they got Vladdy. They, at the time, they had Upset, by the way. If you don't have Callista yet, as you can see, Upset's about the next best thing. And actually, at the time, people forget this detail, at the time, everyone was hating on Upset because he'd had all those 10 places himself, and everyone was going, he's a bum, he's washed. And actually, him playing for that team is one of the reasons they were like this close to being in the season finals. They would have actually had a crack maybe at that 3rd spot, even for Worlds, who knows? Like MDK went, who was at that super low win rate. So I think you look at that. After the initial, like, the first roster didn't work, they've GM'd pretty well. They've done the sort of ship of Theseus piece by piece, and now they've gotten to this roster now, which is excellent. And I agree with you, by the way. If people underestimate this detail about the GM, even the idea Callista plays for them now is insane. Because I can tell you, if this was like 3 or 4 years ago and they weren't called KC, they were just called random team. Like if this was Astralis spying in and you'd had that player, he would be on Fnatic or G2 right now. Like that's not even a fucking question. Like the joke is, if it was G2, you'd join maybe for money and the chance to win. I agree with Nightshare. If you join Fnatic in the modern day, you just join because it's Fnatic. Or also they have really good players is another trick. You attract people with the star player that they want to play with. So to even keep Callista and have him on this roster and then have a really good roster where you kept the right pieces. By the way, now keeping people like Canna looks like fucking 1,000 IQ genius move. Everyone would have said, hey, good stopgap top laner, but obviously he's just some Korean guy from years ago. Bring in, like, so the joke is, if you asked a fan, they would have signed Nakano or someone like that as the top laner. So I actually think this is a very shrewdly GM'd roster. And I also agree, the fact that they've been able to somehow ward off the Fnatics and the G2s away from Callista, I'll give you another reason why that is, because I'm almost certain, by the way, he is nowhere close to the highest paid player. I would actually say this is where even the part I don't like when I mention about the fans, I think is a real factor. They've created, Peter, the same scenario that my favourite football team, Liverpool, has, where it's like, if you're one of us, as it were, from Liverpool, I'm not from Liverpool, but that's what their mentality they have, it just gives you an extra reason to stay, because one, if you win with that team, you'll be beloved, and two, you'll be sort of villainised if you leave. That's not the same for other teams. If you played for like some, I don't know, fucking LDLC, you're allowed to, even if they had an LEC slot, you're allowed to go to Fnatic. People would just go, yeah, congrats, you should go, like it's a better team. They actually created a scenario where the fan culture, because this is what people don't get, because they had all those massive events in the LFL where they would have the off-season events with thousands of fans, that made it for real. So you already got this feeling like, I'm actually beloved here, like everyone's been with that, mate. I guarantee that's at least like 10-20% of why Callista even plays for them, mate, like, because he wants to be part of that. He knows he comes from like they've basically been like their golden boy they raised. What were you going to say, Peter? Come on.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing a lot at the Liverpool point, because we're filming this on Wednesday, and last night, Real Madrid lost 3-0 to Arsenal, and I'm just imagining all these Liverpool fans going to Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's rumoured to be going there at the end of the season, saying, you really want to go and play with these amateurs?
No, that'll be happening all the time, mate, of course. Yeah, of course. By the way, though, that's a real concept, though. I actually do think that's actually, that's what's unique. We've never had that before. We've never had a team that just came in the LEC and already had loads of fans and had like a reason to stay and even want to be like a KC legend. Like, that was nonsense. That's why everyone in the past, I've always said, right, actually, you guys overrate the whole thing of like GM in G2 and Fnatic. They're not playing on easy mode because they didn't always have the money, but it is easier than being like BDS or something. Like, it's really tricky to be one of those teams. It doesn't matter if you want the player. Here's what I almost wish fans knew, guys. I wish there was like a rule where at the end of off season, you have to actually post all the players you tried to get for each position. Because if that happened, and by the way, the genius, Peter, would be if you had to put the date you contacted them. Because what these fans would see that would really depress modern GMs that they don't know is, bro, there are GMs that tried to get all the best players and and they even knew exactly the roster on their board to get. But G2 did take that player, and it turns out, Fnatic did want this guy because another guy did.
Less money
yeah,
than them.
exactly, mate. So the sad thing is, you don't know. Like, sometimes you're thinking, the GM picked this guy. No, that was like his fourth choice. And it was almost like, the safety school concept when you go to university. Like, you pick that at the end if you've got nothing left. But we're now treating it like, he thinks that he's better than Labrov. He doesn't. He just couldn't get Labrov. Labrov had the G2 offer, you know what I mean? So I agree. I actually think they did a very, very excellent job, mate. I actually can't think. I mean, look, they've already. I do think they overperformed by winning the split, but to even be in that position is bonkers after that few splits.
I mean, winning the split is kind of like the cherry on top, because everyone else sucked, right? G2 changed the roster, so it's the best time to attack them.
True.
Actually, Fnatic somehow fumbled the best chance they had in years. So then they took it, right? But I'm very glad you guys mentioned all of this, because it's if it's like a concise sentence, it's this team is one of the best teams in regards to how they're managing or how the team is managed in whole, like the infrastructure group. It's not just like the head coach or the GM, but the people that are actually in the management positions, they are doing pretty good job.
Yeah. Right, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I can even compare it. I think it's not just also in how the team is constructed. I think it's also in how the org behaves. Like, I can give a story back in the day.
Okay.
So, how much do I want to go and stir controversy on this? So back in the day, there was a split where Kobe was first team All Pro AD carry, and I came on a show. I think it was with you, Thorin, probably. I think with you and Kelsey, maybe.
Yeah, could be.
You and Veteran. And basically, it was 2 weeks after you'd done a show with Kobe, and obviously you pushed Kobe on this, and you've been like, "Oh, congratulations on your! Do you think you deserved it?" And Kobe, being the guy he is, he's very, he's very modest. He didn't defend himself. And I came on that show, and I was like, Kobe should have said all of these things, and he was definitely the best AD carry in the league. And the Fnatic AD carry fans sent me so many death threats. So many death threats, from that. Okay. And I was at a party with the Fnatic GM, or senior manager. I don't know his exact position. Okay. But we would, and I was like, oh, by the way, that Kobe thing. Yeah, you do know how many death threats I got from that? And his response was not, oh, you shouldn't have got any death threats or anything. He was like, well, I mean, you shouldn't have gone on the show and done that and said that, right? And I just remember sitting there thinking, it's not like I'm not used to death threats, right? Sure. I mean, I coach in Brazil, Turkey, all the time, the between those two. But you look at if that happens at KC, what happens? Kometo goes publicly and says, don't send death threats, right? And the difference between how the two orgs behave is really, really remarkable. And this is back in 2019, so maybe things have changed. But if you had to go and say to me, pick an org that you would like to be the best org in LEC, I would say, yeah, KC or even G2. G2 keep things light, right? Generally they keep things light. But there are some orgs that definitely weaponize their fan base in a quite destructive way. And I would say that KC, they have a lot of fans, but generally they try to have code of contact, and that's something I appreciate, right?
I will say, a lot of the times I've seen their mob come and get people. It's actually not usually the org people as much as it's French influencers and streamers who are egging them on or in those Twitter groups. I'll give you that, Peter. I'll give you that. Right, okay. What is Peter Dun's good point for this episode?
Okay, my good point is the first time I've been able to do this. Jojopyun had a fucking good week this week. And look, okay, so going back to the tier list point, okay. So I saw a preseason tier list that I think it was Finn did on the podcast where he had Jojo 7th, right? And I think it is acceptable. I think it is acceptable to put Jojo 7th, right? He put, so obviously I think it was, his tier list was Vladdy, Caps, Humanoid Nuke, Sayek, and then Jojo, right? And I think that there is a world where it is acceptable to put Jojo 7th, right? Which is, you think that the job of a mid laner is to just be safe, is to farm up, is to
right
do a job, right? It's you want Bjergsen, right? Yeah, that's it, right? If your ideal mid laner is Bjergsen, okay, then fine. It is acceptable to put Jojo 7th. The reason I have Jojo much higher is because I think he goes for really high risk opportunity things, a bit like Humanoid sometimes. And because they're playing to the limits, they get caught, right? And then it looks really stupid. But if you are somebody who thinks that a mid laner's job is to take zero risk, and every single mistake you make as a mid laner means that you are like damned for the entire game, then fine. Maybe you should have put him 8th. Maybe you should have put Larson ahead of him as well, right? But but for me, the thing about these tier lists is if you put him 8th and he has a performance like he's had this split, and I don't just mean against Heretics, I mean against G2 and Koi, where he has been the best or the second best player on the team after Mirwin, then you have to give him credit, right? Like if you put him low on the tier list, you give him credit when he does well. If you put him high on the tier list, like Alvaro, who I'll talk about in a sec, and Alvaro does badly, you go and flame him, right? And I would say that given what happened in the first split, where Jojo was so inconsistent, I'm really, really happy to see this. I think there's still some issues. Right now it's Yone, Talia, Azir. Show me something else on something that isn't one of those 3 champions. Victor as well, fine. Although Victor, you can't really do that much on Victor, but yeah, but sure. Like you're relying on the team and you follow up, but yeah. But I agree. But the problem is that the rest of the team has been so much less consistent than last split, and I think the fact that they are they should have beaten KC. They were so far. They were 8k gold ahead against KC in game 3, and they should have been able to win that. And KC was the team that always demolished Mad. That always demolished Koi, so Mad Koi, last split, and they found the solution for KC. They got one game against G2, but that was a bit of a happy game from G2. But the point is that the reason why Koi, even though Koi was 0-2 and now they're 1-2, the reason Koi looked better than last split is because his individual play. The reason they don't look like a top 3 team is because like Alvaro, who I think is top 2 support in the league, on his day he's having a rough one. He's having a really, really rough split. And he'll sort it out at some point, but like he looks rusty, which is weird, given that they've had a long off season. I've heard that Melzet is like a new father, so he's been taking
paternal leave or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I know Melzet is definitely one of the guys who takes out the belt, and Alvaro is definitely one of the people that needs the belt. So maybe it's something to do with that. But just to say that, like, it's really good to see Jojo like playing at a high level, and not just in the wins like this week, but in the losses last week as well.
What do you think?
I mean, when even my brother, he was like complaining about Jojo a lot in previous split. When even he comes and he's like, "Oh, finally Jojo is playing good," and then there has to be something to it, because my brother is the biggest hater ever, for those who know.
True.
Right? But I think it's kind of given, because what people don't realize is, Jojo he's like the real American player, like he is the NA born raised. He's like, and for him to come to Europe, which is big cultural shock, because I know I've been in NA for 2 years, and I've been in Germany and Berlin for 2 years. So now I know you don't like Berlin, You just don't like it,
right?
Especially
not compared to LA.
I was like, oh my god, I would go back to LA.
Yeah,
this moment. Like, just give me NA team. Berlin sucks. And then on top of that, you are coming into the team which has Spanish mafia, right?
True.
Like there are literally 4 Spanish guys and Spanish coach. So there is a lot of like a different, how to say this, like there will be sort of like a cultural language disconnect, right? And I know even Fresco beforehand had issues with it, because he felt like kind of out of place, So all that, it's not an excuse, right? You should handle it better, but I understand why he's not like performing to what people would expect of him.
Yeah, go on.
And maybe now that he's getting more used to it, and he's like, the Spanish mafia is teaching him the vámonos and all the Spanish words, then maybe he's feeling more like a team, and then because of that, he's more feeling more easy and then playing better.
He's also managed to piss off the 2 largest fan bases. He pisses off KC by like, what is it, Vladdy a dog? Like, I don't know, it's some dog.
I love this part about him, because like he puts his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
and he doesn't mind the backlash, you know. So I respect that a lot, and it actually makes the league more entertaining.
Oh, definitely.
Because like beforehand, you had a lot of big personalities, and nowadays it's like everyone's just focused on playing and not managing their personalities. I feel like it's also a bad job of their agents and all of that, right? But yeah.
I mean, he pissed off the C9 fan base. Like, trust me, the C9 fans really want this guy to fail. Like, I cannot. Like, when I go, so obviously, like, I tweet pro Jojo stuff sometimes, and whenever there's a hate comment on those tweets, I go and check the guy's profile, and it's always a C9 fan. Right. It's like 95% a C9 fan, like 5% of the time, like a K-pop fan who's like, you know, they're semi-memeing, right? But like, so he's managed to piss off the largest fan base in Europe, because he's on Koi as well. Like, I mean, I think he would piss them off just by being on Koi anyway. And he's managed to piss off the largest fan base in NA, and he just doesn't give a shit, and it's really, really funny. But yeah, I appreciate people who can handle it and also who know when to like get off social media, right? But the weird thing to me is I've never seen him apologize for it. And at the end of last split, like when they lost in playoffs, he did an apology tweet, right? Basically saying that, you know, I didn't do enough. And like, in a sense, this is, maybe it's trying to deflect something, but it's also like, if he came to this split and was shit, then that apology would mean nothing, right? But clearly he went away and worked really, really hard in the offseason. It's really, really obvious to see, right? And so you know, even then, fine, okay? Like, you do an apology tweet, it's the first time he's ever done one, right? But back up your words, right? Don't like, apologies, words are cheap, right? So back it up, and he's done that so far, right? So that's good to see.
By the way, that even takes talent. That's how you know he's like a world-class heel. Because actually, generally, I found C9 fans are some of the most chill in esports, actually. They're not even usually the ones, like... By the way, they let Fudge have like 1 million splits before they turned on him. I know everyone knows at the end they were like, no, they will ride with a bunch of people, like to the bit sneaky. They'll ride with people to the bitter end. So the idea he's pissed them off is pretty impressive. Also, I actually agree with you, Peter. I'm almost certain it's because he actually understands. He has the superpower that no one else has. Basically, you know, in Blade was the Daywalker. He was a part vampire, but he was part human, and he said he had all of their strengths and none of their weaknesses. Like, he didn't die in sunlight, right? Normally, if you're a trash talker, the problem is you then also read everyone else's trash talk to you and get depressed if it's really horrible. I can tell this guy does that thing where he either clicks like, turn off notifications for this tweet thread, or he just turns off Twitter. Because all I'll tell you is this, Peter, I was like low-key actually shocked he accepted my Reflections interview, because I've flamed the fuck out of this guy on some shows over the years. Like, I've made it sound like he's just a bot for the coach, or, you know, well, look, obviously, when you have inspired control in your brain, I've done all that shit, man. So the fact that somehow either he doesn't care, which is fucking insane. Not many players have thick skin like that, or he just literally never saw my tweets, and so he just goes, oh, cool, Thorin's asking me for interviews. Like, well, cheers, mate, thanks anyway. But I will say I agree, because I agree with also what Nightshare said. What's funny is, this is like I get to live my dream I always had, which was, if they've ever had similar money, I always did want Doublelift to just come to LEC. I always thought, bro, imagine how sick that would be, because he is also like just a classic American player, like star player mentality, talking big games, saying everyone else is trash, but you have to like be good enough to make that work. If you're not good enough, it doesn't work, by the way, when you do that trash talking. Like, you look silly, like when Super did it originally, and he wasn't the best fucking ADC in the world. So I think but the problem is, though, when he was doing badly, I can't lie, Peter, it was easy to hate on him, because you could just think to yourself, much like Doublelift when he had his bad seasons, you go, well, yeah, you got the mechanics, you obviously go for it. But like with Doublelift, I used to say, like, right, this guy will make some stupid positioning errors as like fucking ADC, by the way, the cardinal sin. So it's like, you know what, get a genius and put him next to him in the lane. Get fucking Core JJ, pilot his brain, Chouster, get fucking Afro. Like, I noticed you always had to have these people. So I thought the same thing. It was like, right, so he had inspired before, now he's get all your, that's who's going to pilot this guy's brain, and then he's just going to be the fucking hands. He's going to be the real steel rock'em sock'em robot that'll just go out and fight. But I'll tell you what, when it actually does work, though, have you noticed how Koi goes from being like fucking, I don't know, like sixth best team to like instantly they're like competing for third again? Like, it showed this guy is like the bellwether player in their team. If he plays well, they have got a chance to do everything. If he doesn't, then it's like the chances doesn't exist. Yeah. Like, you can see how they've built the team up, but I think he's done a really good job in that sense. Yeah, I actually agree. Also, by the way, the joke there about Finn saying that, it's like, oh really, Finn, would you mega all-time coin flip one trick fucking top laner? Or would you like a really consistent mid laner that just farms with you and not goes for players? Yeah, no shit, it's like you said, Peter, that's how you know Larsen's in really bad form. This motherfucker would have had, like, by that logic, you would have had, like, Nuke and Larson above, like, Humanoid or something, you know, because he's just thinking how he wants to play the game. I get it, Finn, but not everyone else has a team like yours, mate.
I mean, I think the tier list, you when you see somebody do a tier list, don't think of it as an objective truth.
Yes.
Think of it as a way of revealing what that guy values.
Yes, what their preferences
I know,
are. Yes.
I know everything about Finn just by, like, seeing that tier list.
Yes.
Because he values, like, the really, really stable people. Like, I think he had Nuka 3 and, like, and things like this, right? So you can tell that that's what he's looking for in the mid lane.
Yes, absolutely. The joke is he's one of the only people who would be on my side and agree that Froggen was better than Expect here. So enough said on that one. Right, also, I do actually think a low-key point that actually Nightshare brought up that's underrated is the fact of, like, the other thing I'll give him mad balls for is if you've lived in fucking, by the way, he comes from Canada, if you've lived in fucking LA with all the weather and all the fucking food scene, by the way, I won't go in and bitch it, but it's also a great place for fangirls and to meet people and stuff and have a social life. A lot of people don't want to go to cold, rainy Berlin with internet fucking interruptions and then like, Sunday, I'm hungry. Well, bad luck, all the shops are closed. Like, mate, people don't want that. Like, there used to be a thing back in the day. I'll tell you, this is why you won't ever see Blippo back again, guys. Everyone would go, why don't Blippo and Froggen and Bjergsen and Jensen come back to Europe? You can just ask them and they'll just tell you before anything else. Like, well, I live in LA now, I get paid fucking millions of dollars. Like, what are you talking about? Why would I ever go back? Like, no, I'm actually trying to get a green card and stay here forever. Like, that's a real factor. It's why, by the way, I actually think an underrated thing in football is the Premier League can get a lot of good players because of money and very good teams. If you ever notice, Peter, a lot of the really amazing South American players, even if they come to Premier League for a season or two, you know they're going to go to La Liga because that's the same climate that they want to have again, like the fucking culture, the fucking nice warm weather, driving sports car. They don't want to live in fucking Watford or something. You know what I mean? Just look that up if you're not from the UK. They don't want to. By the way, spoiler. It's why one of my local teams who I was from was Newcastle. It's really hard to get people in Newcastle, Peter. It doesn't matter how much Saudi money you have. They don't really want to live in Newcastle. You know what I mean? I don't blame them. It's a hard sell. It's not the same as fucking Madrid. There's a bit of a difference between those two. So that's a real factor. It actually shows, by the way, Jojo also has fucking balls that he's willing to give it all that up and go, I'm going to test everything. And by the way, not just C9 fans, obviously loads of EU fans want him to fail. They want to be like, see, your region just fucking sucks and it's the feeder league, you know. So this guy clearly has like massive fucking ambitions to come here. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a football fan, Nightshare?
Not really. So I don't know. I don't fully grasp your references. But I mean, I'll just say it from my perspective, right?
Okay.
I would go work in NA for less money than in Europe, just simply because of the lifestyle. And that's the harsh truth, right? So.
Yeah.
What sports do you play in Czech Republic? Some shit like wife throwing or something. What's the main sport?
No. I mean, in Czech, you're just it's called brawling, I guess, because you're just going to drink beer and then fight people. But
you meant brawling? I actually thought Peter he meant bowling. He means just like you go
bowling,
drink and beat each other up. Okay, fair enough.
It's similar, very similar.
So basically, your main sport is Fight Club. Well, fair enough. Okay.
Fight Club. I think it's ice hockey and then soccer, right?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, ice hockey would be the one. I hadn't thought of that one. Yeah. That's true. And the Elves have a pretty decent team in ice hockey, if you don't know. Right. Well, I think that's pretty good, though. Yeah, right. I'll go to my good point. My good point is easy for this one. Look, if there's one thing about me, Peter, is I am predictable. And also, spoiler, I do let these guys pick the points first. So if they have a good point, I can't just go, yeah, that was my point. And I just fucking get on and pick a different point, grow up, you know. So I am here to basically fill out the show. Listen, if there's ever a chance to be obnoxious, I'm going to do it. So you know what? That fucking upset. Pretty good player, right? Pretty good player. I'd say MVP candidate. I do notice, by the way, no matter how well he plays, he could have he could carry every team fight. He could have every KDA stat. Everyone will just go, another player in his team's the MVP. So he can't win on that one, by the way. Like, if Fnatic wins the split, they'll just give Razork or fucking Humanoid the MVP. He'll never get it in that sense. But I think, actually, this guy, if you look at where he was at a few years ago with Vitality, even in the good times when they would win games, you could tell he did have that thing in the back of his head, like, this goes badly, I'm just going to back out this team fight. And you could tell there was something in him, couldn't fully like trust his teammates, or maybe the style of play wasn't so. It looks like he's actually hitting like his prime now, all these years into his career. Like, when it goes well in Fnatic, they obviously still have the odd bad game. This guy looks like it's almost like you've built him a flawless team of teammates to do all the things he needs to do, because it's bringing the best out of him. Like, you're just seeing him have the games where he can go deathless, but he's not baiting and he's not running out. He's actually just doing really good play on the edge of the damage meter. So I think this guy's killing it. He's having a fucking awesome time. Thoughts, Nightshare?
I always saw Upset as like very good player, very smart player, but the key for me was that he is swayed by psychology a lot.
Right.
And it's like the biggest important part in building the roster with him, right? And from my perspective, it's for him it's now kind of do or die, because he was waiting for this chance.
Yeah.
He was waiting for a chance to be in a very good team. He couldn't get a better team. He knows it in his head. So it's for him, it's like, I have to perform or it's over, right? And that kind of a like mindset enables him. And also, I think he kind of idolized Fnatic players, all of them. So he trusts them on very high level. And because of that, he has no doubts, for his teammates and for himself. And he's kind of in a headspace where he will perform, But wherever there will be a doubt, he doesn't trust the players or the team, or, like he wants to preserve like his kind of image, or he's afraid that if he does badly, he will, like be perceived badly, then he underperforms. And you could see that in previous teams, right? I don't think he's a bad player, but it's just like you have to really understand him as a player to set him up to succeed. And I feel like that's mainly because of how he idolized Fnatic. He kind of set himself up in that regards, and because of that, he's performing very well now.
Yep.
And then the only like a red flag for him would be if Fnatic, despite being like hyped as being the best team, basically Fnatic having another shit split as Winter was, like disappointing split, then the doubts and fears will creep in, and then he will get affected and he will just underperform again, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I really like, like, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know him. I've never worked with him, but this is how I kind of see it from outside perspective. And then I hope he succeeds, right? Because, I mean, it's his chance. And then it's kind of close to Harlem, right? Being with an ADC that was also waiting for like this big chance, and that was Freeze, right? His entire career. When you finally get the chance, it's like, like you actually feel like you want that person to succeed. So I'm wishing him the best, and as of now, I think he's doing very fine. Maybe in playoffs he will perform a bit less, because that's where the psych kind of kicks in again, right? But I think he's doing very well.
I mean, one thing I'll say, I've known Thorin for like a decade, and I will say one thing: he's always been an Upset fan from the start, and or like defender. And I will say I've always been on the other side. I've been on the Kobe side, I've been on the Kazi side, I've been on the Flackid side.
Okay.
And look, I'm gonna say he's better than he's better than Kazi and Flackid this split, and last split too. And I mean, for somebody like me to say that, like who loves how Kazi plays and who loves how Flackid plays, like I mean. Yeah, I mean, for sure, he's in the ascendancy right now. I like that he doesn't hesitate to follow up on Mickey's plays, and I think that this is something Fnatic really, really lacked last year with Noah. Like Jun didn't hesitate to go in, and Jun is still finding the engages, but their AD carry would always be slow to follow, and for better or worse. It's what's the Upset wheelchair meme? Like we've got to run away. Like danger on screen, etc. Whenever Mickey is the one going in, he doesn't hesitate to follow. He does sometimes hesitate to follow when it's Oscar going in.
Yes.
But when it's Mickey or like Razork, he doesn't hesitate to go in, and he's pushing his mechanics to the limits. And this is, if he just thought less and relied more on his mechanics, I think this guy would have had more success over his career. But if anything, like this is an AD carry that I think Upset in his career sometimes thinks too much, and he just needs to not think, and just because he's got the hands, he's always had the hands, right?
No, by the way, that's a great point because I've always actually, this is something I even thought about players like that and I've tried to tell them. It's like, by the way, even Forgiven used to do this sometimes. They're thinking, it's almost like they're thinking to themselves, like, but if I lose this fight, then like I'm going to be blamed. It's like, why are you even think? You're the AD carry, motherfucker. Like in this scenario, what you do is you just go in, you click, you do the damage. And at the end, if you die and it was wrong, then you, in the review, you have to tell them that they didn't peel correctly. That has to be the order of things. It can't be the other way around where you like is this the right peel? Should I back out? Because if you do that, by the way, I actually think it fucks up the whole streamline of the team fight. Whereas I agree with you, Peter, completely. It's actually the reason also he's one of the few people in the last few years who's had a real good lane with fucking Hylissang, whether Hylissang was good or whether Hylissang was inting. Because if you have players like Hylissang and Mickey X, one thing I will always give them mad props for is, we have a saying in basketball, right, where the person who will always take the last second shot, even if they miss, you have to have crazy heart to do that. Because you're going to miss most of the time, by the way. No one makes most of those shots. But if players like Mickey X and Hylissang have the biggest heart in the world, they will always go for that engage. They will always dive in and try and catch the right player under a card or something. So I'll tell you what, this is actually another factor that Upset's bringing to the team. If you don't follow up on those players going in and doing that, they'll still keep doing it, but man, you will shred their confidence and their psychology will be broken. And that player, that's another player you don't want thinking. You want him doing the move and going in, then everyone follows up. And we figured that out after the game if it was wrong. You know, we'll figure out the decision making or should you have even been in that spot. But you have to trust those players in that moment. And I do think there was past splits where I could even tell, like when it went to shit at the end of Vitality and at the end of KC, times where it was just like, maybe I just back out of this fight. Actually, they're dead already. It's like, and there's one role that can't do that. I think it's ADC. Like, you can't just back, like, you're not just going to, except Freeze in that example I talked about last week, you're not going to defend the base 1v4 on your own. Like, you may as well just go for this because we're sending the team fight anyway. We're doing like a dragon fight to win the game at this point. So I actually do think that's a big factor. But I also agree with Nightshare. We'll still wait for the playoffs. We'll wait and see if there's that game in the playoffs where it's like, shit, maybe I just walk out on Varus. That can happen. That can happen too. That is a real thing, right? Nightshare, what is your?
I mean, I feel like if Fnatic succeeds in the vision that they have for the team, I think he will have the best performance in his career almost.
Yeah.
Like he will be a beast. But yeah, there is the red flag there. Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this. You know what I'm like. I've simultaneously tried to do many different things, but I have also mastered being a troll. Oh, don't worry. If he actually wins a split, here's what I'll say. I'll go, boys, Razork and Humanoid had Reckless. They had fucking Hylissang. They had all these all-time Hall of Fame. They didn't win. But I tell you what, when Upset came, it all changed. You know, when the best player came, then what couldn't you do but win? Exactly. It's obviously him. It's all him. After some game where Razork probably does like a demon mode 15 kill, you know, like play Lee Sin or something like, but I'll still do it. Don't worry. I'll send that fucking take. Because much like in ADC, if you're Thorin, you just send your takes and you just hope that the right people peel for you in the industry and then all the fans try and attack you, but you've got sustain. It's all good. Don't worry about it. So, okay, Nightshare, what is your bad point? By the way, this is what I actually love, Peter, because you know how some of them just come with like a random thing they saw. Like he said, he's come with themes here. So don't worry. You can tell there's some shit like he wanted to get off his chest. So where we go with the bad point here, Nightshare? What's it going to be? Let's just sit and wait. What could it be?
Yeah, I wanted to start with like the bad one, you know, like in my like a theme, how I envisioned it. But the good one was first. The bad one is obviously tied to kind of my PTSD from Fnatic, because as I mentioned, Casey doing all the right steps.
Yeah.
And then just improving over the time. I'll give you, Thorin, you know what? And Peter, I will give you a timeline, okay?
Okay.
It is 2023. The roster is finished.
Okay, I think
and 2024, rebuilding the roster was the first year, right? To get competitive on like top 2, top 3. Then there is planning for 2024 in the biggest, like in the big theme. It was all about infrastructure, and I was very adamant about it. I was sort of even promised things, but then we had no money. But I will not go into the details, right? But I'll just give you the timeline, okay? It's 2023, roster is finished. 2024, we were all about building infrastructure, and we wanted to get strategic coach and performance coach. It's April 2025. Okay, maybe March. We are finally getting strategic coach, Duffman, big W. But it's almost a year later, and we still don't have an infrastructure built. It's almost a year and a half later. We don't have a performance lead, or we don't have a performance coach, right? And I know, and I think Peter will have a lot to say in this regards also. I know it takes a lot of time to build roster and then to build the infrastructure around it, and it takes time for these people to settle in and to start working properly, right? So what I see as a bad point for this one is, imagine you're Fnatic, right? You know G2 will be rebuilding roster. It is your like the best chance you had in like last I don't know how many years to actually win the split. You make a good steps. Don't get me wrong, they're making good steps into a good direction, but Jesus, it's just taking so much time. Like, what is the issue, boys? Like, just do better. Like, if you want to be the top team in the league, you have to do better. Like, I had a joke running in 2024. It was, oh, look on the left side. You see well-functioning team on the left side because you see like 8 people behind the players, and then on the right side it was us. And I always said, okay, you see well-functioning team on the left side. Oh, and on the right side you see top 2 team in LEC, and it was me and Gax, and that was it, you know. And then I was very like I was giving them harsh critique for the upper management for Fnatic, and it seems like it's like the issue is still there. Like, if I would be in a position where I know G2 is rebuilding, okay, I make, in my sense, upgrades in bot lane. I make sense in my sense upgrades in coaching stuff. I should also have like a strategic coach instantly. I should also have a performance coach instantly. I should kind of go all in if I have the biggest chance of winning, right? And I hope for them, because I see them taking good steps, but I hope for them that they will get the performance lead soon, and not like in summer playoffs. Because if you get the performance lead in summer playoffs, what will he do? Like, before he sets all his practices, the split is over and he will get kicked, and he did nothing because the players didn't even build the habits of whatever he was trying to do, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of like my kick off as a bad point, where I feel like, you know, it's just do better, Fnatic. I see you taking all the good steps, but you have to do better. It doesn't take 1.5 years to build infrastructure around your team, and you have the biggest chance of winning the split, and fucking Casey sweeps in and takes it from you. You know, it's really bad. And on top of that, it's not like Casey was playing good, right? But if you look at the run, when you have really insane players, I would argue they had in winter, they had one of the best rosters on paper. And in upper bracket, you perform how you did, and obviously then they got better, right? But yeah, I mean, there's like, just do better.
I mean, they mentally recovered, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I think this performance side is really underrated. And I'm actually going to go completely. I completely hard agree with you on this, because I don't want to bring back too much of your PTSD, but like Fnatic had literally. So I can't talk for every performance coach, but I've been in esports for 9 years, 10 years, not 9 years, and the best or the second best performance coach that I've worked with was on Fnatic. He's a guy called Ryan, esports Ryan. I don't know what he goes by now, right?
You know what was the issue? I also I think Ryan was the best performance coach I have worked with ever. But the issue of it was he came in, he was there for like few weeks, and then he started working with Valorant and other stuff. And then the major theme of it is like they wanted one person, and that being Ryan, to manage all the teams. That's impossible. That's just impossible. And then we never saw him again, kind of, because he was working with Valorant.
Yep.
And I'm very sad about that, because I feel like, you know, I actually learned from him things. And that's in when you work, and Peter have to, I guess, second this. When you work in esports for like 8 years, you usually have all the answers, and there's not many people who will teach you something, and you will not like learn. You will maybe progress on your own by trial and error, right? But having someone who actually comes in and then teaches you a lot of stuff, that was new for me. So I was very happy back then, yeah.
I mean, he went to 100 Thieves, and didn't they win the? Wait, no, they didn't win the split, but they like massively They beat Cloud9, right? Like that.
That was after, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, but basically, like, this guy isn't like, I don't need to big this guy up, right? Like, he's on Heretics now. I mean, like, he's on the Valorant team for Heretics, who are like the the Heretics Valorant team is like one of the top 2 in the world,
Nice.
and the League of Legends team is not. So I guess the Valorant team gets the resources. But he's been hired on the Valorant side to work with the Valorant team, right? But like but yeah, it's like if you've got a guy, like, I couldn't interview a performance coach for you for an org and tell you if this guy's good or not, right? But you can see when one has been hired if the guy's good or not, and this guy is like incredible, and like he is. Yeah, I mean, like if you got a guy like this, you have to keep him, right? Like, I mean, the people underrate. It's difficult to quantify what a coach does or what a performance coach does or things like this, right? And like I think that when you're trying to save small amounts, those are the guys who often get blamed or they get cut or but those things matter, right? And maybe they don't matter if you're like trying to fight between ninth, becoming.
Well, I'll actually give you a good point, right?
Yeah.
It matters if you're playing and winning everything, and your season is back to back with maybe like a week break, right? If you're 9th or 10th, you will have your 1 month or 2 months off, and everyone will reset mentally, and then everyone will rest, and then they will come and ready to be giving it 120% again. But if you're going back to back, people are tired, and this aspect is just like magnified 10 times, right? And then that was the issue we had on Fnatic, right? Imagine that you're going into every tournament there is, and then your coaching structure or your infrastructure is 2 people.
Yep.
You will get overwhelmed. It's just the nature of it, right?
I mean, it's worse as well because on Fnatic, whether or not it's a realistic expectation, the expectation is you win, right? Like, let's forget, let's ignore whether or not it's reasonable for that to be the case. But like, so I don't know what it's like because obviously I wasn't on Fnatic, and when I was on. Let's not talk about NA. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about NA. But like, but you could get like I can only imagine the amount of hate messages and like somebody like Humanoid gets in his inbox. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he doesn't check it, but like I can
sometimes
only
he does. Yeah, he's like, another death threat.
Oh, another death threat. Oh, is it from? Maybe is it going to be from a GT fan this time? No, it's from a Fnatic fan. Oh, I could never have anticipated that. No, but like but again, once. When you're looking for people, it's hard. But when you find people, like if you know somebody is good because you've worked with them, retain them, right? Like
you have to keep them.
That's what like, within like unless they're asking for like 3 times the salary. But like I doubt that's what was happening there.
I'll not talk about it. It's just like there were different issues, right?
Sure.
No, first of all, I will say the problem is, in that sense, Fnatic has been too old school. It's like they're acting like if you just get the players right, then they just auto-win the split. Whereas, like, those days are so far gone at this point in time in League of Legends. Like, that used to be the original Fnatic, yeah? Like, so hasn't expected to do what they want and they'll fuck around and just win the split. Like, that's like a million years ago because everyone else now has actually not only caught up, but they've gotten ahead in touch and coaching stuff. Like we were saying, NRG is an org. They weren't even a League of Legends org. And when they went to Worlds, they had like a positional coach for every single position, plus all the sports psych and everything. And by the way, the sports psych probably the most underrated part because first of all, fans have a very binary view. They either think the sports coach makes you all not choke, which is like, that's not even a fucking possible thing. All you can do is work with the person. Or they think they do nothing and they're just going like, tell me about your father when you were a child. Like they think it's like that, right? So they don't realize like it's about getting the right one for your team as well. And that like gets the culture of your team. Because I'll tell you right now, one of the things I think is mad underrated in that sense is one of the guys who actually was like a sports psych in NA, if people know him, the Mind Body Esports guy who's been with all these different teams. Bro, you should see his resume. It's unbelievable. He does like 1 or 2 splits with teams in CS and League of Legends. Mate, I'm not even joking. He might have like 9 championships in like 4 or 5 years or something. It's bonkers. Like he comes in and the point is you already had the players. You had the good enough players, but all he does is like do that little last tweak or help one player see something about like how they perform in a match. And then it's actually yielded championships quite literally over and over again. Like his track record is impossible for him to be bad. Like he must be doing something with when he's with the right squads. And then also I can actually speak to this Nightshare because I did do a reflections interview with a character called Heaver. And if everyone knows knows one thing about Heaver is he doesn't hide his opinions. He's very blunt. In fact, some would say it's too blunt in some ways. So one of the things about him is, if people don't know, he was with Nightshare for that first year, and then after that he wasn't, because he had his own issues going on. And put it this way, he gave me the most interesting answer in this interview about that 2023 Worlds. Because remember, every fan thinks the story goes like this. Oh, Fnatic was like looking pretty good, and then fucking Trimby locked in that Alistair and just ruined the whole tournament. No. What he told me is this, like, bro, it was done. Like, we were at Worlds, we were losing all the scrims. None of us, there was no, like, cohesion. We didn't even think we were going to win these. We basically just turned up like, we have to play them, like, fuck, then we're going to get like, they didn't even think they were going to be in the bloody playoffs. They almost did, by the way. They almost did that because I assume everyone else did a good job, but I don't think people realise, like, those are the moments as well, by the way, where the spot psych and the rest of the team is fucking gold. So another thing you can do with teams that people forget is this. This is actually, by the way, as a random detail, Peter, where I think people like Perks fuck up, is... Right, okay, I'll give you an example. I was told by some of the coaches in teams that Perks had that were really successful, sometimes the genius would be a conversation you couldn't have had as a coach, he might have for you because he's really involved and proactive. But I then think he went too far the other way, and at the end, he didn't realise sometimes maybe it shouldn't come from you if you're also the player playing bad, for example, or you're perceived as the player with the big... Maybe you need to, like, go to one of the coaching staff, tell them, and then they're the guy who, you know, is friendly with the top laner or the jungler. They take that guy aside and they sort of bring the topic up without it being from you, so they're not getting blocked that it's you and what the implication. Things like these are really nuanced details you'll never see from the outside. You only get these stories years later, and then suddenly things key into place. And you're like, oh, now I get why that relationship didn't work, or why. Because the point here is you can make the right call, but it's from the wrong person. Like, I think these things are mad underrated. So, no, I'm with you. Like, it's obvious with Fnatic as well. Here's the part I can't handle, Nightshare, is it's one thing if we were saying they had bad stuff. They just didn't even have the staff. At least get some stuff. Again, we just said it earlier, you're Fnatic, for fuck's sake. Let's say you can't afford the most expensive sports site guy or whatever. I'm sure there's a guy in an LFL who's doing a good job you can bring in and do the role with and sort of like build out. And then, by the way, if that doesn't work, now you can identify that's part of the structure that doesn't work and replace him. But you can't just not have it. Like you're saying, we can't be having a 2015 coaching staff set up and then compete against like 8 or 9 teams that all have like the 2025 coaching staff set up. Like, you're just going to make people at a disadvantage at that point in time.
Yeah, you can just compare it with Casey, right? Like, how did this team move from 9th to win the split? Right? They did correct decision in roster building, and then they apparently did good decisions in managing an infrastructure, right? I think for Fnatic, how you said, Thorin, it was always about just build a good roster, just have 5 best players, and that's it. And I feel like they're stuck in that for many years, and then even though they're taking good steps into good direction now, because they're kind of their hand is kind of forced because they understand they have good roster, but they're not winning in like 7 years or so. I don't know how long it is, right? So they need to do something better, but I don't know what's the holdup. Like, it's April 2025. Do you want to win split in 2025 when G2 is roster rebuilding? Sure, then have performance coach also already working with the team. Like, it's easy as that.
By the way, also, if you're someone in Fnatic, I even know the people in Fnatic, miss me with that bullshit of like, hey, no one could win, it was G2. Sorry, Mad Lions, Rogue, fucking Carmine Corp. These rosters all won championships when G2 was there as well. And by the way, they did not on paper all have better rosters than G2. Like, you've had some fantastic rosters that you haven't won. Like, that's why 2nd and 3rd, I can see why the fans get bummed up, but they just blame the coach and the players. They don't look at the bigger picture of what element were you missing that you could have added.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also clear that there was a lot of struggling with pressure, right? And when you have players that struggle with pressure, it becomes even more important. I can give a story from this, right? The 2020, the Mad Lions roster that lost in the plains, right? Yeah. There was that was in China in COVID when we had 2 players who struggled a lot with pressure. Arome's said it publicly, so I can say Arome. I won't say who the other guy was. But we had 2 players on that roster who really like had stage issues. Sure. And, you know, on that roster, I was the 3rd coach. I'd never been to a Worlds in China. And I told Mad Lions, don't send me as the 3rd person. Send our performance coach. I mean, he then got illness. He couldn't go. But basically, like, I think if they'd sent the performance coach, it would have turned out better for them. And I think it depends. I'm not saying always send the performance coach, right? But like,
well,
if
no,
you've got,
look, Peter, I completely agree with you. It was completely mind blowing that we were at two. I mean, basically the first World Championships, also, right? Ryan couldn't go because he was with Valorant, and I had the exact same. I literally said like, I know international. You will get a hotel room that's made for one person. You will be there stacked as 7 or 6 person or people, right? And it's everything that's going wrong in playoffs in your normal environment. It's magnified like 15 times at international because of the conditions, and it's like that for every team. So what is the most important part? Bring someone that doesn't have like emotional baggage from all the stress that's building up over the season. Even if it's not the performance coach, fine. It's like, even if it's someone outside of the team who can give perspective, it will help massively. So yeah, I'm fully there with you, Peter. Like, it's on internationals, it's so much more important.
And I mean, for fans who don't know what the conditions are like when you go international, you get a small room. I wish, like, with all the computers next to each other. There's one coach PC, so you only get one PC to share between all the coaches. And let me put it this way: if there is one thing about anyone on your team that annoys you, like they chew too loud, or like they breathe in a weird way, or like their laugh like triggers you, even like 5%, by the end of the 2 weeks or the 4 weeks or the 5 weeks, depending on it, like, it will matter. It may not matter, when you're in Berlin, you can go for a nice walk outside, or, well, I mean, you could never do that in LA. It was too fucking hot. But you do that in a COVID world. So I just mentioned 2020, but in a COVID world in China where you can't leave the hotel, I mean, that kind of thing is gonna destroy you. And even if it's just like going to Iceland, or if it's going to Korea or something like this, right? Like, just being when you're at your domestic world, like if Worlds is in your home country, it's bad, but it's only like, it's like 80% as bad, 90% as bad. But you're in Korea, or you're like in China, it's like, oh my god, it's rough. It's really rough. And that's when, like, that's not something as a coach you can really even train for, right? Like, because you only get to go to international competitions twice a year at the very, very most. And like, I would say, even after 9 years, I would say I'm better now than I was like in 2016 at managing it. But even after like, I don't even like, even after 10, even after 10 times doing it, I'm not sure the 11th time would be, I would do it perfectly. I would hope I do it better, but like, you just have to learn from fucking it up once or twice. That's what I was.
By the way, as a random detail, just an anecdote. One time when I was actually in NA and I was doing Flashpoint, which was like a CS tournament we worked in, we were doing it out of LA. I was actually there, and coincidentally, when I was actually once just taking a walk around the block, I did actually see, on almost a completely empty road, it's just me walking, I did actually see Broxer, because it was when he was there with Team Liquid. He must have just been like, he must have had like an apartment in the area or something. But the awkward thing is, this is right after he was in Fnatic, when I just for 2 years was like, he's fucking, he's boosted, he's just boosted. All the other junglers are better, like, and so I didn't even go up and introduce myself, because I was like, it's too awkward, isn't it? Like, you don't want to force the person, like, when you hate on them, like, you don't know what they've seen. So I was like, whatever, I'll just have to let that one go. It's all good. See you, mate. Just let him just walk around the block. Right, okay, Peter. As always, with bated breath, we wait to find out what is the bad thing that Peter Dun's seen in LEC.
Actually, this week I've got a genuine bad thing, because this triggered me a lot, right? So I hate to punch down, but I'm actually going to punch down this week. And the person I'm going to punch down on is ISMA. And the reason I'm going to punch down on ISMA is because he gave an interview after week 1 where he went and basically threw his teammates under the bus on SK, and basically said that, the team environment was so bad, and like, okay, reading between the lines, he really, really went hard on his old team. And to me, this triggered me so much, because I will say that Niski in his entire career has made every single jungler he's played with look good, except ISMA. Like ISMA is literally the asterisk on Niski's career as like, Niski, where on his tombstone is gonna say like Niski made every jungler like MVP, right? And except this guy, and then you go and you turn around and you go and say that you go and blame your team when you literally have two mid laners who literally love to play with their junglers, and all you have the easiest job on earth. Just listen to what Rika says or listen to what Niski says and just do it, and then the team is going to be successful, right? And this triggered me so much that like I'm just going to go and say like I feel that ISMA is just, for whatever reason, I don't know whether he's incapable of doing it because his practice is wrong, or whether when he was on Movie Star Rider, he just was given like when he was on Movie Star Riders, he was on the team with Melzet, who's the Koi coach, Super and Alvaro, and Super is like this mega like basically he was known as like Super's dog, right? Like he Super would trade in lane and he loses the trade slightly, and ISMA is there on the next wave, and then you can't play. And like Jack Spectre used to tell me like how many stories about how rough it was to play against this guy because you just knew the jungler was there, and like he would do stupid things and you couldn't even punish because ISMA was always there, right? So that was his job. But then he moved to a new team where he doesn't have Super there, right? And you go and look at how much better SK are now with Bukada, who is like, I don't think like this guy is I think he's good, but I don't think he's like a generational talent like a Yike or like a Skumon. Maybe he put me wrong, right? But he's good, right? He's a good jungler. He's a solid jungler, right? But they already look so much better, even despite losing this week. They look so much better simply because the jungler and mid laner are playing on the same wave together in the mid game. And like, I don't know what it is about not being able to do this for 4 splits in a row, which to me like rubs me the wrong way. But fine, maybe you couldn't do things in the team, but then you don't go public and then go and flame your past org. Like, it's just so crazy. And then go and have those performances that he did on GX in the first round. Like, that's not acceptable. And like, yes, they won this week, but they almost lost to, it was Rogue, right? They should have lost game 1 to Rogue, and game 2 he got caught in a really bad situation. And yeah, so for me, like I if you are going through a rough patch, all players go through a rough patch. All players who get to LEC have something about them, right? Like even Promiscu, right? Or even like, the worst type of players who get to LEC, you don't get to LEC unless you have something. Yeah. Like you can contribute something on some champion, right? Like some people can contribute more, but so we all know, everyone as a professional knows that people go through rough patches, but then you do not like, if you're struggling, don't flame your teammates. Go and put your head down and go and fix it. Right? And that's yeah. So that's my flame for this week. Okay. Yeah, it's just be better.
I see the theme though, by the way. What you actually need, I actually now know how you get the toxicity out of Peter Dun, right? If you just present a blank slate of like, hey, what do you think of this player? He'll be like, well, here's the good things. They could work on this. I can see their potential. What happens is if that player trash talks one of Peter's former players, fucking gloves are off. Like he's pulling out like a lightsaber or something, like, I will duel you to the death. Like, exactly, there you go. He's got the Papa Bear energy. Okay, I like it. Come on then, Nightshare, what do you think?
Interesting part is, right, I actually, on SK, I was never like paying attention closely, and I was never working with ISMA, but on SK, I actually liked him, how he was playing, and I thought pretty decent, or like not highly, but I felt he was good, right?
Okay.
And then with what Peter is saying, right, that makes sense, right? But I was actually a bit of a hater last year or last split of Closer, because I felt he's like playing really bad and he's underperforming big time, and he's not like, because from my brother's perspective, I had high hopes of
sure,
Closer, how he was describing me and working with him and everything, right? So he was not meeting my expectations at all, and I was kind of a hater. And honestly, even with Closer, in my eyes, playing so bad, GX was doing better than they're doing now, which is weird, right? So then also, when I was like, what happened to ISMA? That's what I was saying to myself. Like, this guy, I felt like he was good or okay, right? And now it's just like, what is happening? So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've got, there's a few angles here. Like, first of all, on the whole thing of like ISMA himself, I'm with you actually, Nightshare. When I used to watch him in SK, I'd be like, no, there's something to this player. Like, he definitely does like contribute to game-winning plays. He has hands, by the way. You can clearly see that. Like, he has his champions that he goes in on.
He's creative. He's doing stuff. Like he's trying, and he can catch people off guard. But
even so, though, one problem I always had with it, which is why actually I can't believe he's making public statements like this, is going to be really bad for him, is my immediate read, though, was he is a bit fragile, though. Like, when things go badly, it goes really badly, too, and he, like, breaks in the game a little bit. So the reason why I find it wild is, like, as Peter said, bro, you had Niski. Are you out your mind? Like, if you can complain about that, like, you haven't even lived in the real world yet. You're like the middle-class kid who's like, oh, my parents hate me because they won't get me a brand new PS5. It's like, go live in the ghetto, mate. Don't have anything. See how
that's actually nice. Yeah.
See how hard life is then. You'll be wishing you had, like, the fucking parents that were like, you can't play outside, you should come to gym class or something. Like, you'll realise the luxury you had in that sense. You had Niski privilege, Isma. You had Niski privilege, motherfucker. Now... enjoy. Look, that ain't who Jackie's is, mate. He's off making his own plays, so figure it out yourself now, mate. Now you have to actually play the game, so good luck. And then the other thing is, if you're going to trash talk teammates, like even in this case when you're not in the team anymore, you better be some inspired, like, generational talent, genius, god tier player. Like, you better basically be at such a great standard yourself that, like, you're allowed to talk shit about them. Who are you? Who the fuck are you, mate? That's what if I was any of the SK players, even the ones who play badly, I'd go, who are you, mate? You're just some guy who you're the guy that they didn't want to pick up from fucking Movistar Riders. You know, everyone else they just took with them. They didn't take you, I noticed. They left you to go to SK Gaming. And that, what are you talking about? And even after that, was G2 and Fnatic calling the offset? Were they fuck, mate? Exactly. So why are you talking shit? I'll never get that. And also, your role doesn't make sense. The reason Inspired is goated is he does have the swag to talk shit on everyone, tell everyone what they should have done. By the way, even secretly actually help people and sort of be like, arm around the shoulder, now we could do this, mate. Then also go out and fucking do it in the server. And then it's like, well, you know what? I guess you've earned that right. You're the jungler. I always say the jungler is always a losing position psychologically, because there are 3 lanes who all want you to help them win the game. So you have to be some like god tier negotiator to be a jungler, because basically you're always saying no to 1 or 2 people, even as you're saying yes to the other guy, and they don't know that you're saying yes to him. They just see you saying no to them. So you have to do they say in a good negotiation, everyone has to give up something, but they get something that they want. Like, that's what jungling is. You're never going to be the guy who's perfect at that. So to me, again, another reason why you don't want to talk shit is this, mate. You might be back on one of their teams one day. You might be or they might be thinking about it. And I'll tell you what, that might play against you. That might make the people like, fuck you, or have a bad, cold attitude towards you. Come on, Peter, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so I agree with everything you've said. I think also that, like, he probably thought, oh, great, I'm going to GX. I'm going to have this really, really comfortable position with all of these, like, really, really good players. But the problem is, you look at the GX team, and there is one thing about this GX team, which is that the way that they sync their engages is, like, really, really rough. So your job is actually really difficult, because you're communicating with, like, a Czech guy, a Turkish guy, and 2 Koreans. So yes, they can all speak English, but they don't speak English with the same accent.
Yes.
And you have Jun, who's like this god tier engage support player, right? You have an AD carry that like hesitates to go in. You have like Lot, who is he's got good mechanics and good laning, but like he's really like his weakness has always been sometimes he overcommits. So he'll overcommit to a fight, but then he'll like overcompensate for the next fight and then not go in. And like his timings have always been off when he was on Gamers Origin in LFL. And then you have Jackie's, who is like, you don't know what he's gonna do, right? Like, I mean, he's gonna push his limits. So you have to be the guy who is bridging all these comms, and you know that's what I would say in defensive closer. Like his job was really, really difficult. And now, on paper, the XL jungle position looks like a really cushy job, right? Because you have all these great mechanical players, but actually, it's one of the hardest positions in the entire league. Right, so I think that it's really, really you.
I think
like,
Peter,
yeah,
you might give me insight on this, right? But from what I've heard, is like ISMA is kind of like he's. I don't want to say it this way, but we always use this term, and I don't have a different English term for but like a doggy jungle, like he's a good guy who will listen.
He's a follower.
He's a follower, right? And now in GX, what they actually need is complete opposite in jungle, or they need someone
Yes.
who will be very strong on how he plays the game, and he will bring and sync and bridge all the people and force them to play the way that he plays it.
Yep.
Right? And then because of him being kind of a follower, he just doesn't fit it. And then because of that, now you can see, like, oh, he is actually bad because, like he doesn't have anyone to follow.
I mean, he's going to look worse than he is. Like, maybe he looked better than he is on past teams, but now he's going to look worse than he is, right?
Yeah.
But this is unless, like, Jackie's or... I mean, it has to be Jackie's, right? Like, actually, is Jun, like, a primary shot caller?
No, he's not really, like, vocal at all, right? So you would have to get really close with him and understand how he thinks and kind of sing your thinking in his way.
Yeah. Okay.
So it will take time. Yeah.
I mean, then... Yeah, sorry.
My advice for ISMA would be like, you should play your game and you should try force others to play your game, right? Because that's like the best you can do as a jungle, because you're usually the lead, or you should be the leading position in a lot of like the map situation and the engages and everything, right?
Yeah.
I'll also say as well, that is another classic pairing that people, certainly we only ever seem to notice it in hindsight. It's like if you have the jungle and the support that aren't super vocal, it's like, well, how are they going to synergize? Like normally you either want someone like I go first, you follow, or like I communicate more and you just say yes or no. Like you're going to have a hard time in that sense. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yep. That's a good point, actually.
I mean, I think with ISMA, it's not that he's not vocal, it's that he's a follower, right? So
he's just... That's why he was so good with Niski, right? Because he was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'll do it."
Yeah. Exactly. Always super, like he'll make us from what I've heard, because I've heard some of these comms, because people send you voice comms if you're scouting players. Like he's the type of guy, he'll communicate, but as soon as somebody overrules his call, he's like, yes.
He just follows. That all makes sense, right? Even Thorin is picking it up on it, right? If you have June who is not really vocal and he will not force. I mean, he has a way of playing the game, but he will not force you to play the game. He will be like, oh, you should understand me and play with me, right?
Yes.
And then you have ISMA, who's kind of like, oh, I mean, I'll just play how others play, and then I see where they might have the issues now.
By the way, that's also what Peter just said there. Another reason why people in the scene get really triggered by fan opinions, because a fan opinion always acts like all of us are just watching the stream only and then going home and making our opinions. Like I had the same thing in Counter-Strike, Peter. I've actually worked for some tournaments back in the day where I just got to like watch the match in the green room and listen to the comms of the team that I chose in the match. So I couldn't even tell you like how like an IGL like called the game, what is who made the call on that round. But the fan doesn't know that, so he's going, "You don't know what you're talking about." It's like, you're just watching the stream. You're just watching the caster go. By the way, sometimes I'm not even going to blame them, but sometimes the casters even get it wrong. Like, oh my god, 5-man, I'll knock up. That wasn't even what made the kill,
Thorin, it's just like someone will create the narrative for them and they'll just follow it. That's how it's always been, right?
Yes, yes. Right, okay. My bad. Go on, Peter.
No, like it's just that the casters always know a lot. Like I'm terrified of like, well, no, I'm not terrified, but like I know that like Jat or like Captain Flowers or like Vedius, they've heard of what we're saying in like draft comms. They've heard like what my players are saying in game with all the let's call it edgy stuff that like my players have said to each other that really it's probably for the best that the general public don't hear. Like those things, like if you're a caster, you know all of those things, right? Like it's. And so, if you're a player, be nice to the casters. Because, they know everything, right?
They are creating the narratives, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Yes. No, by the way, that's even what I used to always tell people in Counter-Strike. I was like, I don't know why you fuck with me on Twitter. I'm the guy who makes the story up about who you are. Like, luckily, I'm actually like an honest person. I won't ever lie. But like, mate, I tell you what, there's an evil version of me out there that fucking wouldn't give a fuck, mate. You'll be done at that point in time. You'll be toast. Right? My bad point is going to be a very carefully crafted one, which is when we had this game of BDS against Carmine Corp, right? If you watch game one, you just see BDS, like they're certainly going to win this game. They're just ahead early. In the middle of the game, they're ahead. Even when they lose some kills, sometimes they're still ahead. Like, it's basically getting in the game. So, like, Ori Callisti's fed in the game. And basically, if you look, like, Carmine Corp's going to have to pull off a perfect team fight to win the game. But they do. They do that dragon fight where basically they get everything you could want out of their comp. They get like the amazing Canna Rumble R. They get the fucking Targamas, like Alistair ult. They get the Yone ult across everyone. They get all of this at once. And Callista's the Fed AD carry who then cleans everyone up, right? When you have this, the problem is this, right? If you watch that game, because for most of the game, BDS is leading, it's really easy to do the narrative everyone did last split because it was true, which is BDS is dog shit at late game. Like, they just can't close a game. They will throw any game. They've made some criminal plays with new class split in the playoffs, or just stupid ones where it's like an unlosable game, so you just go and take a Baron fight and then take a stupid angle on it, or just ones. So it'd be really easy to look at this game and blame BDS, but I'm telling you, go back and watch that team fight and do the slow-mo and do that thing where you look at each different player from Karmine Corp go in. I'm not even joking. I don't even know what BDS could have done differently. Like, this is almost like, I actually think they could have been even further ahead and still lost this game and lost the fight, because after that, by the way, the game was just over basically instantly. Like, this is an example of where I actually normally would flame BDS. I'm not even going to flame them for that game. They've had other games certainly that weren't that good, and they did have this issue. This game, I think loads of teams in the world would lose to that team fight, by the way. I think that was almost like a flawlessly executed team fight.
Yep. So go ahead, Nightshare, you first.
I mean, you know, it's also, I mean, I understand. Like, we had I'll compare it to kind of the narrative of Fnatic always throwing the lead, and Fnatic, we called it Fnatic bingo, right? You always have to look a bit deeper than oh, they just threw, right? Sometimes it's actually because you're making mistakes, but sometimes it's actually just because of the enemy team is just playing good, right? So you have to distinguish between those two, and then a lot of fans are not capable to doing.
It's also just popular to flame the person who lost, you know. That's just sadly human/fan nature. Joke there being, I've made it like humans are, you know, are different from fans, but that's my own opinion. Don't everyone has to understand that.
Yeah.
Right, let's go on then. If we haven't got anything else, more?
No, I mean, I agree with you, but I think that Casey had been in these positions like a couple of times. They were in this position.
They were like that at first stand. They were winning some of these fights, mate. Like, they're a fucking really good team fighting team too. Yeah, you can't underrate them. They're fucking cracked.
I mean,
the problem is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter. I mean, you have so many good players, right? Like, look at Vladdy, how he plays team fights, how he postures aggressively, how he creates space on his own, how he's flashing forward in a position that no other mid laner would flash forward, right? How confident he plays with all that. You have Kana, who is like insane also, right? So then that's why they're consistently in these positions, right? Because they have such good players.
Also, by the way, a shout out to Korean Rumbles. Again, Asia has just cracked all that champion away. We're just not in the West. I'm sorry. Yep. Go on, Peter.
Except Odo. Odo gets.
He doesn't play anymore, mate. He's just a coach for some ERL, just some fucking nobody.
Some random ERL team.
Never heard of him.
Like, I'm really hyped about Vladdy, guys. Like, this guy is insane. I just hope he continues to perform, grow, and then he gets some international exposure.
My problem though is that KC are going through some type of like a hangover. Like, I mean, it's natural, right? You go to an international competition, you have less of a break than the other teams, and they are playing worse than they were playing last split, for sure. But they're still, but there's team fighting their way out of bad situations, which they won't be able to do forever, right? So we'll see. I mean, I think that roster's really, really young, right? So they should, the exhaustion probably won't kick in like it would for another team. But like there are more situations this split versus last split where they've had to rely on their team fighting to get out of bad situations. And this BDS game was one. Game 3 against Koi was another one. And it didn't work against Fnatic, right? So
you still have like a good point from them, right? I remember the game against Fnatic. The first game they were actually macrovized. The swaps and everything was very decent. So you can see that like it's there, but they're not like consistent, or they're sloppy now. So they just need to up their game, and that's normal. How Peter said, right? One thing that no one like fully comprehends is like if you go back to back, the exhaustion will show on you, and I don't understand. I'm always respecting G2 for this. So much, because it's like they went back to back for 2 years and they always bounce back. I mean, they had some times where they were underperforming, losing, and stuff, but when it matters, they turn on again and they win the split. So,
but also like winning, G2 would win so many games where they played badly, and then they would do meme like
you know what? Don't remind me. It was basically every final we played against them. It's just like
Well, the joke is they in that sense they actually are. They almost should be a British org, Nightshare, because they are very sporting. They gave you the head start. They were like,
Yeah.
"Come on, give them a chance." They get the head start in the first game or two, and then we'll catch up, But then beat you at the finish line, of course. It's all good. Not trigger
mean, the
cost, not PTSD.
I mean, the fact that KC are able to win these games where they're not actually playing that well, though, is kind of scary for the rest of the
Yeah.
league.
Makes me look forward to MSI. They could cook there, mate.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they still. We'll see. Like the thing is that if you're already seeing the tiredness in week 1, week 2, like at the end of the playoffs, like one of the things that is hardest for rookies to do is pace themselves, right? This really gets you at the end, and we'll see, because obviously they. I would love to see them go to a second international event, because I think that they're like really exciting team to watch, and they play the game and how I like it played. But I've just seen one of these two warning signs. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, the fact that they're able to play like this and still team fight, like team fighting is instinct, right? You can train it, you can coach it a little bit, but a lot of it is about instinct, whereas their fundamentals are things that you can coach. And if anything, their instincts are still fine. It's their fundamentals which are not consistent. They exist.
Discipline, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Discipline. That's
And team fighting will just never go out of style in League of Legends. I don't care who you are. You could be the best laner ever. Chovy did this. You could be the best laner ever. Like, eventually you're going to have team fights. And people who are amazing at it, like BDS showed it last year, they're just going to get the edge on you. They're going to come back in these games. They're going to catch the throw. Like, you could throw it, you have to catch it as well, I always say. It's not just one part of it. Right, okay, Peter, what is your ugly point?
I might go. I think.
Sorry, Nightshare. Yeah, sorry,
point,
should be you, Nightshare. Yeah, true.
So the ugly point. I mean, we had the theme of what we see a team doing good, and then suddenly, becoming better of KC. Then we see a team that's not doing so good job. That's a Fnatic, and then I have like the ugly. It's ugly to say, right? But what's the worst for me, for LEC and for like the whole league, is like teams like Rogue, where I don't know, I don't have the inside, but from the outside perspective and just watching the facts, it feels like this team is just fine being last and is not taking any steps to improve on it. It's just like they're just fine being last, and they're just doing it, because I don't know how many times they finished like in bottom 3. I think it's like last 3 years, maybe, no? And they never made playoffs. And then from what I don't understand, I don't have the insight, I don't have the information, right? But for example, this split, I think they have a good roster. Like they have a decent, good roster. And when you look at the team as a whole and then what steps they are taking to get better, I don't know. I don't see any, So that's just, I guess, the ugly part. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know a lot of things. I mean, every team has issues, right? It might be money issues, it might be different issues, but it just feels like give that spot, or have a team who's trying a bit harder, and then you would see over the time you would see better results, right? At least you would not be always bottom 3.
I mean, the rumor is there is going to be a team who comes in who is born to win. That's a joke. If you know the name, look up what Natas Finter means. Go on, Peter. What do you think?
I mean, Nigeria, you're going to flame them like this after they got their first win of the season against Vitality.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I actually believe that the roster now is like Malrank fits them well, and then they should be kind of good, They should not finish last, but it's not just about that for me. It's just like over the time period, I have not seen any impulses strong enough to impress me to say that they're doing a good job on managing the team to be better, or like to grow into what basically maybe Casey did, right? Or
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's worth saying. So the way that the LEC works this year is different teams have played vastly different numbers of games, right? So we're 2 weeks in, and Rogue, like Vitality, SK, and G2 have played 2. And Rogue are the only team that have played 4 games. And Rogue's 4 games have been against BDS, Heretics, GX, and Vitality, right? So they haven't played KC, they haven't played Koi, they haven't played G2, they haven't played Fnatic, right? And they're currently 1-3. I will say this week, they got their win against Vitality. I think, well, I maybe talk about Vitality a bit later, but they got their win against Vitality. They were in a position to beat GX until the massive throws. But yeah, I mean, generally in terms of the team building thing, obviously, like I think that there's something up here. It's funny because they still seem to have a fan base, right? Like there's still people that are mad about them not doing as well as they could, and I don't think those guys are just hate watchers. I think there's actually like some amount of Rogue fans, maybe left over from 2022, and I think it's you know, for those guys it's pretty rough. But like there is, you know, we spoke about like upset earlier, about this being upsets like last chance, and you know you know, essentially what he knows that he needs to play at his best, right? Essentially for these Rogue players, if Rogue is trying to sell their slot, this is a contract year, right? Because you're not going to have a contract very soon if your spot is bought out. So you would expect more people, you would expect them to be angrier, is what I would say, right? And like the only person on that team who I feel is angry, maybe a bit too angry, is Adam, right? Like Adam definitely is angry, right?
He's got the Bruce Banner secret though. He's always angry, mate. I think it's the secret, that one, isn't it? Isn't he doing that at the Avengers?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, if you, at least it shows you care, right?
Yeah,
like,
true.
If you're mad.
True.
And I think, you know, like Larson has been a good player for a lot of his career, but in situations like this, the fact that he's such a calm, controlled person maybe makes him an easier target.
Yes.
Because it's easy to just go and say, oh, this guy doesn't give a shit. Yes. Whereas maybe he's just Swedish.
Yeah.
You know, like, but yeah, yeah, but we'll see. I kind of agree with what you're saying.
No, by the way, on that last point, I know what you mean. Basically, the problem you have here is also because like fans do too much with those fucking player cams and with the video of what the people look like in the room after the game. Like you're trying to psychoanalyze their whole like history of who they are and all their relationships. Like sometimes it's just different personalities. Like basically, Adam and Larson is like that fucking famous MSI clip from Mad Lions of Niski and Elyoya, where like look, like the joke is I fuck with Elyoya once. I'm like, I want the guy who has the passion. Like we can still beat them. I don't want the guy like, hey, let's stop like arguing, guys, and let's take like a breather or something. It's like, in a way, in the moment, you want to vent the bad energy, you know, you want to get like, do we all understand this is fun? By the way, you don't think Niski really was just like, nah, it's cool to just get wrecked, lol, I guess we'll just go for a walk. No, he knows it. He just has a different way of dealing with it. No, I'm with you. And also, you have to realise, Larson, he really is, Veteran nailed it like 5 years ago. He really is the fucking like child of Froggen. Like, he is just the guy where when you're like, you have to have a better game, Larson. He's like, all right, 9.5 CS a minute it is next game. Like, no, we didn't mean that. Like, no, I promise I'll grind and I'll get 9. I only had 9.3. My bad. Like, they just see the game that way, mate. They are fucking mage mid laners, you know. They're not really the guys like, oh, this is my canvas to paint my thing. They're just like, right, they're fucking the spiritual Germans. Efficiency, I have to get the gold, the ratio, like, fucking give me a break, you know. That's just who they are. That's who they are. I'm with you, though. I actually have to say, even though I do enjoy hating on him, he's one of the people I hate watch. I have to say, actually, Adam has shown he actually is a good player. He has skills. Look, he has certainly certain problems outside of lane, etc. But you see, like, he actually... This is why you have to be really sad for their team, though. Because the copium was, yeah, but now it's standard lanes. It's going to mean people like Adam are better. Well, he is, but the problem is he still not win the game. It doesn't matter at this point in time, and I'm with you. If you look at their record, they've won one game. Bro, they could go 1-8. That's really plausible. In fact, you know what? That's hard to do. I'll say they'll go 2-7. Like, I don't think they're going to beat any top team. There's just no reason they will. Like, even when they have, by the way, the most criminal one was if you saw that stat where, like, they were like something like top 3 and like gold lead after 15 minutes. But fucking hell, this team also can't close games. Like, they're nothing in the mid game. So I think they're in a tough spot. And to go to Nightshare's point, even though this roster isn't bad, but even with all the caveats of like, no one wants to join your team, you've spent all the fucking money on Larson anyway. Like all these bad aspects. The problem is it's too little too late, and this gamble didn't work out. It just hasn't worked, and this roster unfortunately is not going to do anything for the rest of the year by the looks of it. So it is going to be whatever, 3 splits in a row or something that you're like last or second from last or something shit like that. You're not even relevant to make the playoffs. If you made the playoffs, by the way, everyone thinks you just go out first round anyway. Like that is the worst absolute spot to be in, and especially because they aren't SK Gaming. Like they're the team where first of all they did spend a lot of money on Larson. They're paying him like he's caps, and also they used to be a championship roster. They had that amazing run of 3 or 4 years where they were absolutely always at the top. They had the core together. That's even actually a sign that you've badly GM'd, because at that point there are people who would join your team. They'd come just to be in a winning team and not be in like the fucking 6th best team or whatever. So you could have taken the Vitality stars of it like yesteryear, etc., where they used to just make 6th every split or whatever the fuck. So yeah, you're in a really bad spot. That's why I've already pointed out in the past, I actually low-key hope that move is real and Navi's just going to buy the spot, because I don't think Navi's coming in to be the last team. I think they're going to come in and probably spend some money and actually bring in like proper coaching staff and stuff and go and try and be a top team. And as we've seen with KC, if you do that right, the league's just going to get better. Same with BDS. Like, remember, we traded out teams like Astralis to get these squads. Like, these are the squads we want in the fucking LEC, guys. So yeah, I agree. It is a bad point.
Yep. I defend BDS though. Like, I think BDS got like screwed this offseason. Like, I think G2 told maybe in a casual conversation somebody who told somebody else.
No, I'm not hating. I'm saying BDS is someone we want, mate. I'd rather have BDS than like fucking whoever they replaced, Misfits or whatever, you know. Like, yeah, of course.
From my perspective, it's just like there is no way in my head that it's feasible or it's possible to end up being bottom 2 team 1 or 2 years in row. There is no possible way, because if it's the money, it's the issue. Bro, I'll tell you, our bot lane was the cheapest bot lane in the entire LEC by far. It was not even close how cheap they were. And we were top 2. So it's not about the money. It's like, yeah, if you have money issues, okay, then find some, Korean kid that will work here for a low amount. And by the way, and they are, you can get people who are working for less than academy players, or like the rookies, right? So that's why it's an ugly point, like for me, there's no way and team will finish bottom 3 every year past like 3 years. It's just not possible. There needs to be something terribly wrong.
I appreciate that this episode is sort of like a low-key humble brag. It's like I had the bottom least paid bot lane and no coaching staff, and I was just fucking around almost beating G2. Well, you know what, guys?
That sounds ugly, guys. Yeah. I just cut it, okay? Just cut it.
Okay, what is your ugly point then, Peter? What is it? Come on.
My ugly point is vitality. Like, I mean, how can this is how
Peter? This is how you know God giveth and God taketh away. So he gave you that angle for Jojo, but then he took your beloved vitality that you so desperately want to be good, and he just robbed you.
I so want vitality to be good. I really want that. I would really want that to win. I really want.
Well, it wasn't the week for that then, was it, mate? Because that Yasuo game. Listen, I love it when people do picks. That game wasn't it. That game wasn't it, Peter. That game was not it.
I mean, all I'm gonna say about that, like this. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna say is there's only 6 teams that make playoffs. So losing to Rogue, like last split, is like haha, it doesn't matter. Like you're gonna win some more.
Yes.
It's a single round robin, best of 3. You only get to play 9 games, and you need like 4 wins will get you a playoff. You need 5 wins to lock playoffs, right?
Yes.
So or 4 to to lock the what's it called, the play-in, the play-in game, right? I don't know what it's called. You play a best of 1 against the other the 7th place team, right? So they've just thrown away a really important win against Rogue, because for me they're disrespecting Rogue. Like, and this Yasuo game, you can pick Yasuo into Jace, but you cannot pick Yasuo into Jace and put the Yasuo on weak side into Jace.
Oh, he's getting dove all day long, mate.
I mean, it's just like, you just have to, like, if you are going to pick the Yasuo, you're going to disrespect Adam like this, you just have, your jungler better be camping you.
Yes.
You better be like, and like, for me, they cannot go Kalista Yasuo. Like, they can't go Kalista Yasuo. And it's not bad to camp bot lane. They have Kalista. They got something off it, but this Yasuo is not going to play the game. And the first game, what I would say is there were situations where there were risks. So that Sayak and Niski in particular, like game 1, I put a bit on mid support that I don't think they would take those risks if they were playing against BDS. or against G2, right? But they wouldn't be in a position to take those risks against G2, right? But they're taking the risks because it's Rogue, and like there's a situation where like they just chain feed them. So like Yasuo is 1-1-1 in the game, right? And like he's I think he's down a bit on CS. No, not Yasuo, Yone, like the Rogue last one on Yone. And they give him a like Sayek goes for like a bot wave that he doesn't need to contest. Like his entire team is on the other side of the map. He just goes and pushes a wave that he shouldn't push. Like he should just receive the wave on this tower. There's no benefit to pushing it at all. He dies. Nisqy then, instead of abandoning bot lane, he should just go to mid. They just play on the other side of the map, give Dragon, give the bot tier 1, it doesn't matter. He dies. Then they give up the tower, and like Yone's even in the game, and then he's like massively ahead, and now the game is really, really hard to play. And like I don't think that they do that into Nuke or into BDS, right? I think into Nuke in Paris. I think they do it because it's Rogue, and for me, I hope this is a learning call, because I really want to see Vitality in playoffs, because these guys are like my dark horse team, and they've been my dark horse team since the start of the year. And you know, this is a learning experience, right? Like if don't disrespect your easy games. Like it's better to disrespect G2, right? Because like you're probably going to lose them anyway. Don't disrespect your teams. And also, this is a learning thing for Nak, because you cannot just go Yasuo like this with no jungle attention, right? Like I mean, and maybe you don't think Adam is that good. I think Adam's pretty good in lane, but like maybe you disrespect him because you think, okay, he's not that good. But then like, you know, you're going to feed if you're on Yasuo, even against like. I mean, he's still a challenger solo queue player, right? He's still going to be able to beat you. Even though, like, the thing about Nak is I think he's top 10 in solo queue. He's the highest top laner, I think, in solo queue. And he's clearly feeling it this week, but maybe he felt it, you know, a bit too much, is what I would say.
Yeah, and I like Nak, you know. He's when I was actually watching in off-season the in-houses, and I saw his POV, I was like, oh my god, this guy is pretty insane, right? But I kind of... He brings me a vibe of Oscarinian when he was a rookie in when I came to Fnatic. It's kind of like this guy mechanically is very gifted, but he will need time to actually, you know, build like proper habits and routines and everything to be actually good. So I think he will be very good with time. But it's always, you know, like a lot of people, me included, you will only, or like the strongest impulse to learn is kind of by error, right? Like trial by error. And then that pain that you feel from something like this, then that will move you into the right direction. So I agree with Peter, right? It's like, it's good for them to lose this way because they can learn a lot from it. But yeah, I mean, I also believe that Vitality should be pretty good now. I think when Nisqy kind of gets in a way of playing support, you know, also like half a year maybe, and he will be good support, and that this team will be very good. I think it will fit him insanely well.
I'm actually with you on the framing that you put it as ugly, not bad. Because obviously you could have memed and gone, Rogue suck and they've lost Vitality's lost them, so it's over. No, the real problem, like you said, Peter, is it's if you look at the schedule. Because if you look at, if there's only 6 teams that are going to go through, and I pick out all the ones, right? Well, 2 of them below them at the moment is Koi and GX. Like, bro, that means like you're in trouble if even one of those gets going. Like, so you have, and I'm sorry, right now, you have a chance. I think you'll win games off some of the top teams, but to win the series is going to be hard against some of those top teams. Even though actually, I'm with you, I don't hate the roster. Like, my issue is, but this will get into a point in a second. We'll just go into my ugly point, shall we? My issue is I do think you have overloaded on rookies, though. That's the issue. I prefer it to be like, actually how you did it in EG, Peter. I prefer you bring in rookies one at a time. So that way you figure out that specific rookie, his profile, what he's good at, what he's bad at. You work with him, you test him out, you experiment a bit. I don't like the idea you just throw like 3 in there, because like, mate, that's like spinning plates. It's like by the time you finish doing this one, you're over on this one again. And sometimes maybe they even turn out to have like counter issues in the game that can't just be instantly resolved and don't play off each other as well. That's actually why I also like the Nisqy move, bringing him in. It's not, Nisqy doesn't even have to be a great support player. Come in and just do Nisqy things in the team and be like a glue guy and call things and make... By the way, the other reason why we want so many players to go to fucking support who were really good like mid laners in the past is actually, in the modern day, support can make players. You can go out on the map and make that like flank that you would have when you roamed as a fucking mid laner, and you can get some shit off and actually catch someone out, etc. So your instincts are still going to work. So I'm going to go into now my ugly point, which is something I sent Peter, which is, you know what? There's not that many people, Peter, in general. It's just I'm a content creator. I don't have that much time to watch other people's shit. I have to bring people on shows to talk to them. But one people I do religiously hate watch is good old Nemesis. Good old Mr. Like, well, now that I'm not in the LEC, everyone's shit and I'd be second best. No, yeah. Tell me another story, mate. Yeah, and you know what? If my uncle had balls, it'd be my aunt, wouldn't it, you fucking idiot? He always has these takes where it's like, the problem is, if he was Chovy, these takes are straight fire. Because he's Nemesis, it's like, you're in the Bwipo camp, mate. It's like you're giving the craziest takes about everyone else, but then you're just positioned like the uber genius god tier player. It's like, but you aren't that player. So he had a take, Nightshare, where his take basically was that like all these, it's actually a take I've said, but the difference is he did it even harsher than I do. His take is like people are just gambling on too many rookies. And basically you can tell, look, there's an obvious reason why he would be biased in this sense, because someone's taking rookies instead of someone like him or some of the people at Crowley, etc. Like there's an obvious reason why he could have a bias too. But he genuinely seemed to think that like most rookies basically aren't going to be good and that they're sort of just gambling too much, which listen, is a take I've had before, but he went really hard with it. Like he almost made it sound like we should go back to the days we just signed the big name. He just keep doubling down on like, you know, I mean, the saying in English, the idiom is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, because obviously you might not be able to get both of them from the bush, so you're giving up the one that's in you. You just keep what you've got basically. And so this is a take he had, and I obviously know this is like right, it's counter to everything Peter believes in basically. So spoiler, I set this up as the last one of the show. But Nightshare, what do you think about this? It's the idea that like in LEC people just constantly gamble on a million rookies. What do you think?
Well, I have it's interesting take. I have completely different like opinion on this, or how I was usually handling it is when you come to the team, you have to understand what are the pieces that you want to keep, and then you have to understand what pieces you're missing in the team, and what sort of like not just game-wise, player-wise, review-wise, even characteristic-wise and such, right? And I've never seen it in like gambling on rookies. For me, it was always just like, oh, I know I'm missing this person or this player with these characteristics. I will look everywhere. I don't mind if it's a rookie or not rookie. If he fits my profile that I want, and I believe that will fit or benefit the team the most, I will take it. So I've never like distinguished in between rookies and veterans in this regard. But I have to say, it's like from coach perspective, it's sometimes way easier to work with rookies because you can shape them up in a way that you want. So, you know, for example, if you have someone, it's like maybe in this regards, in like the Nemesis stake is like, if you actually know veteran and he's like, you do your proper research and background check and everything, and you know his profile, then you kind of know what you'll get, right? You know he will be like this, and if it doesn't fit you entirely, you would rather take a rookie because you know that you can kind of change them or shape them up in a better way than the veteran. So in that case, I guess, you know, like I understand it, but I don't feel like I don't feel this way that people gambled on too many rookies. You know, maybe nowadays because the money is tight. You know,
Yeah.
So maybe because of that, but I've never felt it like it's just take rookies and then hope for the best. You know, I always felt like there is some at least thought process behind it.
I mean, I think the video basically in the clip. So I hadn't seen it, but Thorin linked me to it, and basically he was saying that people taking too much gamble on rookies, but also like Twitter analysts hyped rookies too much based on EMEA performances and things like this, and like a lot of the guys that look good,
which is a bit ironic too, but all good.
Yeah.
It is in hindsight.
I did want to just pop up like, yeah, it's weird when they overhype people from EMEA, isn't it, mate? Hey, keep going.
I mean, in fairness, you know, he should be like the Kanye West against the basketball players, you know, like or like the NBA player playing against the kids, right? You would expect them to dunk on them, and he did, right? Like, I mean, of course he did, right?
Okay.
Because, but but what I sorry, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, so gambling, right? So what I would say is I think in Vitality's case, I don't think it's gambling in the sense that they did really badly in summer last year, and I know Mac for sure, and I assume Pad as well, work with the Vitality Academy team when they were at EU Masters. So Mac has coached like a lot of those guys for like 2 months plus, right? So it's not like he's picking them up fresh. But I think also there's a difference in taking a gamble on somebody who's already within your system and who you already know about.
Yes.
Because
it's not a gamble, kind of, because...
Yeah, exactly. Like it's KC, right? Like the KC thing or the EG thing, right? Like those are promoted internally. And I think one thing that people are really careful to do is with veterans, you do like so much work when you're trying to hire a veteran on background checks, right? Like, and it doesn't mean it's not about like screening people who are toxic. Like sometimes you want people who are toxic in your team, right? It's just like how they channel the toxicity, but either people don't screen that enough on rookies, or they don't have enough like...
It's more of a like they don't have enough information, I
exactly
believe,
right.
.
Exactly. So I think you're gambling if you are somebody like well, I mean GTO Fnatic is different, but if you're somebody like I'm just looking, if you're something like Rogue, or I mean like Giant-X, okay, so Giant-X have an academy team, but they don't like spend super large amounts of money on their academy team, right? So like if you have an academy team and you use your academy team to develop your rookies and to train them in your system and to put them there, I don't think it's a gamble, right? Like I think BDS, but I think that there's only 4 teams in the league that actually spend money on their academy team. I mean, SK have an academy team, I don't think they spend big money on it. It's like BDS, Heretics, KC, and Vitality are the 4 teams. Did I say Vitality twice? Yeah, okay, well, anyway. But essentially, there's 4 teams that spend big on their academy teams, and I don't think for those teams promoting rookies is a risk. But if you go and say to me, like, SK 2 years ago signed X-Kick and DOS, right? Like, for me, I get what Nemesis is saying in this situation, right? Which is that this guy was mega, mega hyped because he did really, really well in LFL on, like, a popular team. They're like, okay, we have to go and sign this AD carry who's really, really hyped, but we want him so much, we're going to give him like he can sign DOS if he wants, right? Like X-Kick basically said to them, like there were other teams that wanted X-Kick, but X-Kick said, I will join you if you sign DOS, and the other teams were like, we're not willing to take that. That's too much of a price. But SK were willing to say, okay, we'll do it, and that's how they managed to sign X-Kick, and it ended up not working. I don't think X-Kick was... I mean, by the end, it was a bit rough, but I felt like DOS was struggling a bit more than X-Kick. But maybe those are the kind of gambles. Like, how much are you willing to give up to go and get a rookie? How much control of a team are you willing to go and give to a rookie, right? Because I'm not saying rookies can't control a team. I'm saying they don't have the experience to do it. And, maybe your support that you played with in ERLs, and you two like stopped everyone in ERLs, and so you're like, oh, I've got to play with this guy no matter what when I go to LEC. That's where things start to get difficult. That's where things start to get risky. And I think the risk is a little bit in mechanics, but I think it's a lot more in personality. And Academy gives you the option to screen for it, but if you don't have an Academy team, or you don't have an if you are a team that you have an Academy team literally just to sell shirts in your domestic league, what's the point, right? Like use it to take gambles and try out new players, right? Like that's what I would say. And I don't think it's a risk in that situation. Like I don't think Vitality are taking a risk, but I do think Giants are taking a risk. That's what I would say.
Yeah, my problem with this is I often do it from the position of defending like someone like a ground shot that I think definitely should be in LEC. Like he could be like the top 5 player in his position. Like he could be competing. So I do hate it when people like that are overlooked because 4 people decide to gamble on like an ADC or something like that. So my problem is this. I also need to know the context of the move though to judge it. Like for example, if the premise goes, this isn't even someone as a rookie that's like overly hyped and there's a bidding war for. So it's not like I have to pay like top money and he's a rookie and he might fail. fail. If I can get them really cheap, but then every now and then it is going to turn out to be somebody who ends up being like 4th best in his role, but I got him like for like 8th best money in the LEC. That's just a cost efficient move. Like that allows me to then free up money to keep my star player, or maybe then like I can get a coach. There's a whole bunch of things that like balancing the budget wise makes sense in that sense. So I'd have to know the situation. Well, another one of my big complaints is this one, Peter, which is it's also what role the rookie is going to play. And I don't mean like position in the game. I mean like role within the team. I do think, because what you're referencing, even though by the way it's actually apparently an apocryphal story, I know everything about Cardia, sadly, and that is apparently from like a satire website. Basically the story goes, if you don't know, guys, people said something that like Kanye went and played like, you know, a charity game with like disabled kids in wheelchairs, but then because he's Kanye, he's just like donked on him and scored like 100 points or something. Which just, the reason why it's a genius satire piece is you could believe that was real. Like, you know, like that is just what he might do. You know, it's plausible.
I only saw the meme, but
you're not expected to. Don't worry about that. And I will say this. So that's actually a very good analogy, though, because I do think there are people who just look at ERLs and they see a player getting loads of kills or popping off and they go, wow, imagine if he did that in my LEC team. And it's like, but that is like that sometimes. Like you see this even from people like Kalist, by the way. I could see in that first split, there were certain champion picks Kalist did where he would have gotten away with that against all the bot lanes in the ERL. And he didn't realize, oh, mate, you might even be a top LEC player now, but you have to respect the other top players. Like they'll still get you if you have a bad matchup, or you pick something that, like if you pick the thing where if they do the counter comp, you just don't get to play League of Legends, which happened once or twice, by the way. Like you have to learn the hard way. Like that Draven pick that's hilarious in the scrim, that's different when it's on stage, mate. Like when they do the anti-Draven comp and you can't ever fucking go forwards, it's a nightmare. You're just like, can I play League of Legends, please? And the answer is no, you can't. So that
happened international, no? He picked
absolutely,
it 1-2,
yes.
And then, yeah.
Which, and by the way, from how many times he's picked it, I can tell he must be shitting on everyone in scrims. That he's having those scrims where he goes 9 kills in like first 10 minutes, and he's like, "Lord, this is my secret pocket pick." And it's like it is in scrims, but it isn't at the highest level, mate. So I also need to know: am I picking someone up who's just like a decent player who can fill a gap for me, and literally what they do in the RL they can do for me, or am I picking up someone I stupidly think is the next Caps, but actually maybe they're not when they go to the top level and they play all the other good players? Because like that's an example of where I do think another area where GMs look stupid is when you have these dominant ERL teams where they're winning everything in the ERL, they're winning the MEA Masters. And what happens is the other GMs correctly pick apart the good players from the team, and you just take the ones that are left, and you act like it's Voltron and all 5 pieces were the key, and you don't know they took the best player, and you took the one that he was making look good. And then you end up with just a mid-arse player in the fucking LEC, and now you could have had Jizuki or Crownshot or Leader or someone who actually might have done something in some of those games, you know, who could have won you some games. And instead, you blow the whole split, and then I agree with Peter as well. And then you don't even commit to them. You just go, oh, what's that? Yeah, kick them out and get another guy. It's like, that part, I can come to more towards the Nemesis side on that one. That one is you're just gambling. Because in this scenario, like gambling, when you lose, you just gamble again. You just buy another scratch ticket and go, hey, maybe this one wins.
I mean, the thing is, though, that people, maybe fans don't realize, is that rookies, now that there's so much agents in the scene, rookies are not that cheap anymore.
Right.
Like the cheapest people you can sign are actually Koreans. Number one, like veteran rookie Koreans, because once you're 20 in Korea, like you're super doomed, right? So like if you're 20, 21, you can get like really, really high quality Koreans, like reasonably cheap. And then it's like you know, people who were mid-tier veterans in the past, you know, like a Gen X or somebody, right? Like it's probably not that expensive. And then it's like
then it's the rookies.
then it's the rookies, and then it's like the stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, no one realizes this. Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, why are you not taking rookies?" Or you know, like, "Why are you not taking European players?" Oh, yeah, because they're like 5 times more expensive, you know.
Yeah, or even 2 times more. You know, like it's but like legitimately 3 times more expensive. But So there's that, but also like it's the accountability thing, right? Like if you have signed a rookie and you kick him within a year, you fucked up as a GM, or you fucked up as an org, right? And like this is something I think I've mentioned to you on one of your past shows, Thorin. But this is the thing with Jack Spectra and Flackid, right? Like Flackid was for sure a better player than Jack Spectra. He's a player I worked with in the past. You know, I like he was a better fit for what Heretics had. But the fact that Jack was a rookie and you're kicking him after 5 months is, to me, it doesn't matter that he's a worse player, You've put the scouting in, and you decided this is a player you want, so you give him a year, right? It doesn't matter, right? And then you take the brunt, because, and I think this is something as well, because we've talked a lot about team building this year. This is, I think, something that people don't take enough accountability for. If you've gone and signed a rookie, you've done your due diligence properly. You've done your scouting. You know the environment this rookie needs to work in. So if he plays badly, it's not his fuck up. It's your.
I mean, it's yes. I mean, to this point of like what Thorin said about gambling on rookies. From my perspective, from my experience, I almost never see it as a gamble if you do your job correctly, and it should not be a gamble. So that point is completely like blown off the table nowadays, because you have a data team that collects data on so many data from like even solo queue, even the scrims. He goes through like the first screening of the data team, then you do eye test, then you do background checks, then you do interviews. Like the process is very extensive, and it takes the whole of season usually. It's like when players are at Bahamas enjoying their Malibus or I don't know, right? Then coaches are working the whole off season, and then honestly, if you do your job correctly, there's no gamble.
I'll give you a little trick as well.
Be a gamble.
Since the theme of this episode has been asking other coaches who've worked with them for their like sort of their report on like how goes this guy, I'll give you a little secret key that'll change how you use that information. Which is if someone like Peter is bigging up the player and he could have signed him but chose not to, treat that report differently than if you're a bigger org and he wishes he had the player but he's just giving him to you because he's actually so legit. He will still give you the great review and stuff. But all I'll say is it's when like he chose not to. Just ask yourself why he didn't. That's all I'm saying. It's just make that thought be in your head there. That's part of the due diligence. You also got to know who you're talking to. Now, I will end the show by just saying this. I can promise everyone watching the Best Damn League show, period, that next week there will provably be a different guest.